A bunch of people were totally freaking out, screaming their heads off asking if the big boss was still kicking. And yeah, our guy was looking pretty rough. Then some dude yelled, "Hey, open your eyes," which made him groan and wake up looking like he just bit a lemon, asking, "So, how'd the beatdown go?" One of the guys was a total mess, ugly, crying all over the place, and blubbered that the monster mash was a success and they actually took down the final boss. Our hero managed a weak smile and said, "We really pulled it off, thinking that this creature was on a whole other level. It took 3 years just to corner the thing. Not to mention, hundreds of folks didn't make it to the after party." A buddy of his yelled at him not to check out, while the girl added that the medics were on their way. The MC was like, "Do these guys think I'm an idiot?" muttering that half of his body was literally missing. He then looked over at the girl who was crying her eyes out. He told her to get the rest of the gang together, saying that after this, everyone could finally call it a day and move on from this whole mess. As he started to fade out, all he could say was, "My bad, guys." I mean, this was the dude who was the #1 hunter in all of Korea. He basically wrote the rulebook for the whole hunter system, but he cashed in his chips fighting the very last baddie in the dungeons. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a kid got a whack on the head. It was a couple of wannabe tough guys giving him a hard time, and a red-headed punk asked if his classmate seriously forgot to buy them snacks. They all crowded him, saying, "You've got to be kidding me." But surprise, the kid getting pushed around was our hero, thinking, "Great, now I'm their personal errand boy." He flashed back to his past life, remembering the fall and wondering if he was totally toast since he couldn't move. A spooky voice announced that humanity was basically up for grabs now. The voice said Jun Woo was out of the picture and no one was left to stop them. But even while falling, our MC yelled back, "Cut the crap! There are plenty of hunters left to wreck you." He kept shouting that they'd figured out all the monsters' secrets and had cooked up all sorts of new toys just for the final showdown, and that even stronger hunters were coming. The voice just said the system he made wasn't half bad, and that it would be back in 40 years. Hearing that, our hero was like, "Hold up, run that by me again." The disembodied voice just repeated that when it came back, it hoped humanity would have a lot more goodies to fight with. The MC shot back that by then, the monster would be nothing more than a bug to squash, compared to what humankind would be packing. And just like that, he snapped his eyes open in a different place, totally bewildered and wondering if he was in a hospital. He mumbled that his brain felt like scrambled eggs and he couldn't remember something super important, but he knew he was just fighting the final boss, Gigantina. He glanced in a mirror and blurted out, "Whoa, who is this kid?" Grabbing it, he wondered if he'd somehow been zapped back into a teenager, but then he thought, "No way, this face looks nothing like mine." He decided he needed to do some serious snooping to figure out where in the world he was. Elsewhere, a man with a doctor in tow said, "Well, look who's finally decided to join the living." This guy strolled over, introduced himself as a police officer, and said he was there to ask our hero a few questions before rattling off the kid's info. But our guy just replied, "Actually, I was born in 1975. The cop and the doc just stared at each other, probably wondering if the kid had a few screws loose. The officer asked if he could remember what happened before the accident. Our hero said all he remembered was getting his butt handed to him while fighting monsters in Gigantina. The officer turned to the doctor and whispered, "Is this Jun Woo kid totally nuts?" But the doctor just shook his head. He said the boy just needed to chill for a bit before they grilled him again. Still, the cop kept asking, "But does he really think he's the times hunter Jun Woo?" The doctor just said it's normal for people to be a little loopy after an accident. Our MC, tired of being talked about, just piped up, "So, what's the deal here?" Hearing that, the cop realized the kid's memory was a total blank slate, so he started explaining that on the previous day. The protagonist had been jumped by some crew called Banksini, but since it all went down at the crack of dawn, there were 0 witnesses. So the cop's like, "You seriously don't remember a single thing that went down?" But our guy just gives him the silent treatment. The officer lets out a big sigh, pats his shirt and says, "Hey, I get it, man." He slips Jun Woo a business card, telling him, "If you happen to remember anything, give me a call, K?" As the doctor is leaving, he tells our hero to get some rest, but before he can dip, the MC pipes up, "Hold on, I need something." The doc, looking totally confused, asks what he could possibly want, and our protagonist just asks the dude to tell him what year it is. Answering our hero's super weird question, he says it's the year 2051, and hearing that, our MC looks like he's seen a ghost. He tries to stand up, yelling that it's gotta be a lie. A second later, he's yanking the curtains open, thinking he must have heard wrong. He's muttering that Seoul used to be a complete ghost town, all thanks to the non-stop monster brawls. It was basically a hangout for the homeless and refugees, who got treated like absolute garbage. and he's just like, I can't believe it's changed this much. Looking out, he sees skyscrapers everywhere and families just chilling with their kids, all of them looking happy. With tears literally streaming down his face, our MC says that just seeing this, he knows his buddies did a darn good job. As he keeps watching, he wonders if his friends are still around. But since 42 years have gone by, they're probably all hanging out together on the other side by now. But then it hits him, and his face goes pale as he realizes just how many years have passed. He whispers to himself that 42 years have flown by, and if he remembers what that voice said, it won't be long till the monsters make a comeback. But then, boom, the whole building starts shaking. The emergency speakers start blasting, announcing a major crisis at the hospital. Hearing that, our protagonist gets all keyed up, wondering what the heck is going on. Elsewhere in the city, a portal just rips open in the sky, and people are screaming and running for their lives while some guy yells to call the Hunters Association. Our hero immediately starts booking it out of the hospital, thinking to himself, alright, let's see how much monster slaying has improved in 42 years, and he shows up where a massive crowd is gathered. After taking a look at the situation, he's totally baffled, wondering what is wrong with these people that they're just standing there, gawking at a portal. A soldier is shouting that a hunter is on the scene, and for everyone to get away from the giant, swirling vortex of doom, so they don't get vaporized. Apparently in 10 minutes they're going to lure the monster out. Hearing this, our MC gets ticked off, thinking, they're gonna do what? He has a flashback to him grilling his old teammates. Do you guys understand me? Let me say it again. The MC says that the second a monster leaves the dungeon, the hunters lose all control of the battlefield, and it's pretty much a guarantee the city gets flattened. For that exact reason, the takedown has to happen inside the dungeon. That was the #1 rule you could never, ever break. He'd asked them if they got it, and his men swore they'd never forget. Back in the present, our protagonist is shoving through the crowd, muttering that the guards are a bunch of idiots. A reporter is asking her crew if they're ready to go live, but before they can, our hero gets right in her face, asking what in the world they think they're doing. He's yelling about why they're just letting the monsters come out to play, because monsters aren't some cute little pets, and this whole thing is just bonkers. But before he can finish his epic rant, the crowd starts clapping and cheering for some huntress who just arrived. A bunch of guards are standing by a flashy car. Someone starts to get out, and everyone just loses their minds. The woman's name is Go Yoon Chae, and as soon as she showed up, the reporter starts snapping photos like a maniac. Our hero is just staring, thinking, this kid is a modern-era hunter? She's so young, he has no idea what she's capable of. The girl who just showed up starts walking toward the portal, and a light flashes on her wrist as she activates some kind of gadget. A bunch of system windows pop up saying permission was granted and that B-grade abilities were now active. A guard screams out that the monsters are on their way out of the dungeon. A creature, crackling with raw lightning all over its body, appears and stands right in front of the woman. An ice-cold power starts to form around the girl's sword, so the monster comes charging at her, but, big whoop, the lady dodges like it's a game of tag and pokes it with her sword, and she actually lands a hit. A bunch of fangirls are watching, one's all, oh my god, that's amazing, while another pipes up, go on, she totally looks like she's dancing, as she's fighting. Some little kid points and says when he grows up, he's gonna be a hero just like her, and our guy is just watching this whole circus with a smile so fake it could be plastic. Back to the so-called fight, the girl does a dramatic leap. Then she zips toward the monster, which is also, trying to eat her. She fires off a bunch of ice spikes at the poor creature. Every single one hits the werewolf, and with that little light show, the monster is toast. The crowd goes absolutely wild, chanting her name over and over. Seeing this, our protagonist just starts cracking up, but with a look like he just smelled old milk, he says, "This ain't it," and asks, "You seriously call times that time's a takedown?" Our MC is thinking this whole thing is a train wreck, with some rookie hunter acting like a pop star, just winging it with her flashy powers. And the backup team was a complete joke, since they didn't even, back her up asterisk. But he figured the absolute worst part of it all was what she just pulled. I mean, she turned a live takedown, with a million variables and a boatload of civilians around, into a glorified photo op. And the next thing you know, our MC just punts the camera that was filming. One of the rent-a-cops gets all huffy and asks what the kid thinks he's doing, and our hero just fires back. Are you guys insane? Dragging monsters out of a dungeon to fight them where people are trying to live? Because newsflash, when a monster gets out, it can level up in this environment and go completely bonkers. After hearing this, the guard just looks lost, while our guy keeps ranting about all their screw-ups. People are whipping out their phones, asking, "Isn't that dude just some student?" He keeps going, saying the support team was garbage, and now those guys are getting super ticked. The protagonist asks if they really think this is a monster hunt, since it looks more like a bad street magic show. But then the girl chimes in, "Hey, are you from the academy?" and says that everything she just did was straight out of their class syllabus. Then she adds that her hero is pretty feisty, but you shouldn't think the instructors teach you everything, because the battlefield is way different than the rumors. And the MC just scoffs. "You really call times a battlefield?" With a death glare, he questions how she dare spout such nonsense in front of him. The second she saw the look in his eyes, the girl looked like she was about to faint, but before he could say another word, the guards swarmed him, yelling that he couldn't act like that. The MC couldn't care less and asks if her name is Go Yan Che. He says that if she keeps up with that pathetic skill level, she should be ashamed to even call herself a hunter. But the girl just mumbles to herself, "Ugh, this feels just like school. It's so hard." Hearing that, our protagonist was just completely baffled. Elsewhere, he's sighing, remembering that voice saying it would be back in 42 years. Thinking about it, he mutters that if things keep going like this, everyone's totally screwed, because these hunters are weaker than your average monster, and he has to get ready for the coming apocalypse. But in the next moment, he thinks there's still a chance because his old crew might still be kicking, and if he can just get in touch with them, he could actually make a difference. Still, he wondered how in the world he'd find them, since he couldn't just go asking around. The boy said he still had one lead, because that girl from earlier mentioned a hunter academy, and that means someone had to have built that place in the last 30 years, and only one person could have done it. Our hero flashes back to asking his friend if he really wanted to start a school, and his buddy was all for it, saying that if the war ever ended, he wanted to build an academy to look after the next generation. He even told Jun Woo to pick the name, and hearing that, our protagonist asked if he really should be the one. With a totally straight face, he said the academy could be called Korea Hunters College. The man shot back that the name was way too simple and would never grab anyone's attention. Back in the present, our MC. So I was standing in front of this school, wondering if my buddy for real gave it that name. And man, this place was huge. Some guy pops up asking what I'm doing there, grilling me about being a student since he's never seen my face around. And our hero's just like, "Nah, not a student. I'm just looking for someone." Hearing that, the old dude says if I'm here for Yun Che, I can just turn around and leave. I tell him that's not it either, and ask if he knows a guy named Bae Wushik. The guy's brain just about short-circuited. He stammers, "You mean, the boss?" And I'm like, "That's the one. I'd love to have a chat with the big cheese." The old man gets all official, saying non-students aren't allowed to see the director. Then he squints and asks if I'm a special admission student or something, which just left me blinking in confusion. Our guy has no earthly idea what that means, but he just rolls with it, like, "You bet I am, a very special student." The guard just sighs and says to follow him. I couldn't help but wonder why the guard was giving me this look like he was pitying a lost puppy. Anyway, we head into the building. A few minutes later, our hero nearly jumps out of his skin. The reason? A giant, glorious portrait of his old body was hanging right there in the room. Seeing it, he blurts out, "What is that doing here?" The guard shushes him, saying he needs to pipe down, and our guy has to mumble an apology. But then his face turns beet red, wondering why in the world his buddy decided to hang a ridiculously huge portrait of him right at the entrance. As they walked, they saw the walls were plastered with photos, and one of them had a quote that said, "Hunter Jun Woo once declared that adventurers are made of 99% willpower and 1% talent." Seeing that, our main character thought, did I really say something that cheesy? I don't remember that at all. A few seconds later, they're at the director's office, and the guard knocks. He peeks in and says, "Sorry to bother you, but there's a kid here who wants to see you." A voice from inside tells them both to come on in. Before they step through, the guard gives our guy a serious look and warns him not to pull any stunts. Then they walk in, and the guard announces, "The special transfer student has arrived." Hearing this, the man behind the desk looks totally baffled because he doesn't remember any special student coming in this year. The guard just says, "You two can talk, I've got rounds to do." So after he dips, our protagonist locks eyes with Wushik, looking dead serious as the director walks over. The director is muttering about how this whole situation is incredibly bizarre, his face all scrunched up. He says he hasn't heard a peep about any special student passing admissions, demanding to know who this kid is, and warns that if he can't explain himself, the kid is going to be in a world of hurt. But our hero couldn't care less and just asks, "So, how've you been, pal?" The director is just stunned, silent, not recognizing him at all. Our protagonist keeps it up, saying, "I almost didn't recognize you, man. You're looking like a real old-timer." Then he asks if Wushik recognizes him, dropping his name. "It's me, Jun Woo." The man looks at him, totally bewildered, and says that in his entire life, He's never seen someone so completely off their rocker, and he immediately reaches for the phone. He calls the guard, telling him to get this nut job out of his office immediately. But right then, our protagonist cuts in and asks, "So where's Soon-young?" The director freezes and demands to know how he knows that name. Our hero just smirks. "Dude, you used to follow that woman around like a lost puppy and got rejected every time. There's no way I'd forget." Then he really twists the knife, asking if his buddy ever actually managed to marry her. Hearing that, the director finally snaps, lunges forward, grabs Jun Woo by the collar, and screams, "Who the hell are you and why are you saying these things?" Our hero just starts laughing and says, "I never figured you'd actually grab me, Woo-shik." Then, with a machinoid look, he says, "A school director getting all handsy. You've got some serious nerve." The guy lets go of our hero like he just touched a hot stove, his jaw practically on the floor. Meanwhile, our boy is just casually dusting off his shirt, more annoyed about the lint than the whole hostage thing, and he starts lecturing, "Dude, how many times have I told you? It doesn't matter if you're up against a giant monster or the most powerful guy you've ever met. You gotta get a proper grip so your target can't wiggle free." Hearing this masterclass in kidnapping, the director looks absolutely spooked and stammers, "Wait, is Times he Times your boss?" Flashback to a few years ago at Subjugation Management HQ, where some dude is having a full-on meltdown, screaming about what everyone's even doing while holding a blade to some poor woman's neck, all while demanding they bring him some medicine and a sandwich. The MC casually asks what the ruckus is, and a guy explains that the kid got booted from his base. Apparently, he's got some kind of illness and is on a desperate pharmacy run. Our protagonist goes, "For real?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, we're pretty sure that's the story. 'Cause, you know, his brother's got the same bug." Our hero thinks it over for about half a second, then just starts walking right into the thick of it, straight towards the guy holding the woman hostage. His buddy just watches, probably thinking, "What on earth is our leader doing?" The knife-wielding dude screams for the MC to back off. He's yelling not to come any closer, or the girl's gonna get it. But our boy couldn't care less and keeps on strolling. The kid panics. "I'm serious, you take one more step, and this girl is totally done for." But the MC just shrugs and says, "Go for it, man. Do whatever you want." Hearing that, both the kidnapper and the hostage look completely lost. The woman's like, "Did I just hear that right?" Our protagonist confirms, "Yep, I'm being 100% serious. Nobody's gonna care if you get taken out. I mean, this city is crawling with monsters anyway." The young guy tries to say something, but the MC cuts him off. "What's the matter? Don't have the guts to do it?" Then he says, "If you really want that medicine to save your brother, you're gonna have to try and take out every single one of us to get it." And hearing that, the guy just stares in disbelief. He continues his little pep talk. "To save someone, someone else has to go. That's just the way we live now. Doesn't matter if it's monsters or people. Because if you're gonna commit to something, you gotta do it right. But if you can't even pull this off, you should just stop with these useless stunts and go get offed right alongside your brother." After that little speech, the guy is just completely stunned. Next thing you know, the dude shoves the woman aside and makes a beeline for our hero, swinging his blade like a wild man. But the MC dodges it like it's in slow motion, then snatches the guy's arm with zero effort and flips him with a perfect judo throw. After hitting the deck, the side character lets out a few choice words, then gets slammed to the ground again. He tries to get up, looking furious, and says, "I'm going to end you." He yells a few more colorful things at the MC and tries to slash him with his blade one more time. With a big grin, Jun Woo says, "Now that's the spirit," as a system window pops up saying the user has equipped an item. But, again, with absolutely no trouble, the protagonist just parries the attack. Then he sticks his finger right in the guy's face as the system announces the skill. Explosive flick. And in the next instant, our hero lands a single flick that sends the poor guy flying into a wall, where he leaves a human-sized dent. Yeah, he was out cold after that. Jun Woo calls over to his buddy. "Hey, go find this guy's little sister. She's probably nearby, and I still have her medicine." But his friend is like, boss, you might want to rethink that. Her disease is supposedly super contagious." But our hero isn't worried. If that were really true, this guy would have been a goner ages ago. Now get a move on. Hearing that, his companion scurries off. The young man goes to do as he's told. The MC then tells his friends, "Take this guy back to base and get him something to eat." Woo-shik is about to ask the obvious question, but our hero cuts him off. Yep, that's exactly it. Because from this moment on, you're all buddies and on the same team now. Back in the present, the protagonist's friend is asking, "Wait, that was actually you? Because dude, you look like a kid." And hearing that, the MC just shrugs and says, "Your guess is as good as mine. I have no idea what happened." And he'd just woken up in this tiny body, with with the director staring at him like he was a science experiment gone wrong. Awkward much? Jun Woo was like, dude, you totally don't believe me, do you? And the guy's all, yeah, think? Nobody's gonna buy that a hero who got totally wiped out just popped back up as a kid. So, our main character goes, fine, I'll just spill the beans on our very first hunting trip, and bam. Woo Shik straight up decks him. Meanwhile, some poor guard is sprinting to the director's office because Woo Shik had called him, basically screaming, get this kid out of my office. See, the whole special student thing was how they scouted top-tier talent, so the guard figured this kid must be some kind of prodigy. He gets to the director's door and announces, hey, I'm here to say I'm sorry. But as he walks in, someone's yelling, stay in character, man. Turns out, our hero is forcing Woo Shik to rehearse his apology. The guard just stood there wondering what in the heck was going on and then started to slowly back out of the room. But our hero yelled, keep going, don't you dare stop. You can't stop now. A few minutes later, our main character looked super annoyed, and Woo Shik looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. Our hero complains, ow, my face hurts. And the director finally apologizes for the punch, saying, hey, you brought up the first mission, that's a low blow. Our guy is like, man, the world has gotten weird, and the director's all, yeah, I bet it seems pretty freaky to you. To which our hero replies, no duh, even monster hunting has turned into a total circus. Just yesterday, I saw hunters parading a monster out of a dungeon like it was a prize poodle. Woo Shik perks up, oh, you mean the dungeon by the hospital? And our hero's like, yep, I know exactly what you're thinking. So our kid asks, why in the world are you guys doing this stuff? The man explains, well, after you know, took one for the team on that last mission. The world got super peaceful. Big, scary monsters basically went extinct. And our hero's just like, so that's why you're dragging them into the streets? There's a limit to how dumb you can be. But the director's like, whoa, there were other reasons, okay? With no real danger, getting sponsorships from big corporations is a nightmare. We had to do something to keep the lights on. So now hunters are basically influencers, and the whole game has changed. Our boy argues, it's not too late to fix this train wreck. He then says, you're the head honcho at the Hunters Academy. You can totally change this. But the director's like, I've tried, dude. The bigwigs are all involved. I can't just overhaul the entire education system all by myself. Our hero suggests, what if we get the old gang back together? We could totally do something. But the director just says, the other members times are times the bigwigs. And, I hate to break it to you, but a bunch of our old teammates are not going to be throwing you a welcome back party. Our guy shoots back. You feel that way too? The director sputters. What? No, not at all. Our hero just sighs. Man, everything's been a total disaster since I got back. But Woo Shik tries to cheer him up. Hey, don't say that. The world's safe from attacks. And you get to start over. Live a new life. To which our kid drops a bombshell. Yeah, about that. The final boss is coming back. The director just blinks, completely lost. Run that by me again? So our hero says it again, nice and slow. The final monster is returning. Woo Shik is freaking out, you mean. Gigantina is actually coming back? And our hero's like, that's the one. And even if you don't want to believe it, that's the reality. Right before I bit the dust, I heard a voice say the big bad would be back in 42 years. Woo Shik's like, no way, that can't be right. Are you sure you didn't mishear? Our hero just deadpans. So let me get this straight. You believe I came back after 42 years, but you can't believe the most powerful creature in existence can do the same thing? The director suddenly finds the floor very interesting. Our hero's just like, yeah, I'm out. There's literally no point in me being here anymore. So the guy asks what his buddy's grand plan is, and our hero's like, isn't it obvious? Same as always. I'll handle it all myself. Woo Shik points out his leader can't do jack in that body, but the MC just scoffs. Hey, I pulled it off once. I can do it again. But right before walking out, our guy stops and says, hold on, one more thing, then asks, where in the world is my sword? He can't exactly go solo without it, but Woo Shik says it's in storage, and since it's a super valuable item, it's on lockdown. The MC's just like, so I can't get my own stuff? The director tells him the guy in charge over there is Seok-do, and our hero is thrilled his old pal landed that job. That was absolutely perfect. But since he was always so loyal and followed every order, Woo Shik points out that Seok-do is probably going to be the person most furious about his return. The MC grumbles that literally nothing is going his way, and the man replies, well, there is one other option. Apparently, Seok-do's granddaughter is a student at the academy. And rumor has it the old man is completely wrapped around her finger and can't say no to her. Our boy is like, he has a granddaughter? Then the awful realization hits him. Are you telling me I have to get close to times her times to solve this mess? And the man just says it would be the easiest way. Our hero sighs, figures it's his best shot, and asks for her name. The director tells him the girl's name is Go Un-chai. He adds that the MC probably already met her at that collapsed dungeon near the hospital. And upon hearing that, Jun Woo just says, "You have got to be kidding me." He asks, "You're telling me Times girl is Seok-doo's granddaughter?" And the man just confirms it, asking, "Is that a problem?" The MC admits that he got pretty heated after seeing her sloppy work on the street and might have started something with her. Hearing that, the director's jaw just about hits the floor. Woo-shik freaks out, asking if he hurt anyone, and the MC snaps back. "Of course not. What do you think I am? I just gave her a piece of my mind because I was annoyed, and then took off." He then flashes back to what he said and how she totally botched the monster fight. He screams, "I have no idea what to do now." Our hero suddenly shoves his hands out towards Woo-shik, who just stares back, completely baffled by what his friend is doing. He asks if Jun Woo needs something, and our hero deadpans, "I want the academy enrollment form." Hearing this, the man is totally floored and asks, "Are you being serious right now?" Our protagonist tells his friend to just fork it over, explaining, "My weapon is being held hostage, and to get it back, I have to cozy up to Seok-doo's granddaughter." Woo-shik says that's not the real issue, it's that the MC is way too old. Hearing that, our hero gets offended. What's that supposed to mean? The man asks if he seriously plans on enrolling at his age, and hearing that, our protagonist is completely stunned. The director starts rattling off all the reasons why it's a terrible idea, and with every word, our boy just gets more irritated. He snaps that he's not there to make friends, he just wants to get his weapon back. Hearing that, Woo-shik just lets out a long, tired sigh. He mutters that their leader is still the exact same, to which our protagonist replies, "Duh. That's why I was the first one they took out of the picture." A moment later, the director slaps the admission card into our hero's hand. He warns, "Try not to be too hard on the students," and the MC scoffs, "Please, I'm not that kind of person." Woo-shik insists, "Don't hurt them, they're just kids," but our protagonist just smirks, "I'll play that by ear." The man pleads, "I'm not joking, those kids are incredibly weak." And the MC finally yells, "All right, I get it." The very next day, inside the academy, someone was trying to find their classroom. It was our protagonist, thinking to himself that joining a class was actually making him nervous. He mumbles, "Okay, just gotta lay low and not draw any attention," all while keeping an eye out for Go Un-chai. Suddenly, someone asks, "Hey, what are you doing just loitering in front of the classroom?" It's a girl, and she says, "If you're not going in, then move. You're blocking the door." The MC just apologizes and says he's heading in. Then, for some bizarre reason, the girl gets right up in his face, and he just freezes, feeling completely awkward. She squints at him and asks, "Wait a second, aren't you that loudmouth from yesterday?" Hearing that, our hero is just confused. As she walks in, she says, "I can't believe the new transfer student is a guy like him." But that's her problem, not his, though he still has to ask, "Why'd you call me a dog?" She just ghosts him, leaving our guy even more confused. She just drops that zinger and bounces. He's thinking, "Man, kids these days are more complicated than my taxes." Anyway, he walks into the classroom, and bam, he feels 100 eyeballs on him. That's because literally every student is staring at our dude. A whole posse of boys are whispering amongst themselves, wondering if that's the same dog from yesterday. Even some of the girls are gossiping about the same thing. It finally clicks, and the MC is like, "What is going on? It's my first day and I'm already a C-list celebrity?" But he figures it's best to just tune it all out, telling himself, "I really thought this academy would be different since nobody has my item." Our hero starts hunting for a place to sit, but something totally weird stops him in his tracks. The reason? There's a whole bouquet of flowers on his desk with a note from Woo-shik congratulating him. Seeing this, he's totally baffled and wonders if this is some weird welcome wagon gift for all new students. As he sits down, he mutters that it was a total waste of cash. A second later, he nearly jumps out of his seat because someone is making a huge racket. The reason for the commotion was some dude shouting and ripping on their teacher. This guy was a real piece of work, complaining that his teacher basically forced him to show up. The second this drama king entered the room, all the other students looked terrified. Our hero's just thinking that kids are all the same, always acting like they own the place. Then, the loudmouth spots our guy, and his eyes go wide. A smirk spreads across his face, like he just found a new toy. He starts swaggering over, while saying he can't believe the dog from yesterday actually showed up in his class, and that he totally didn't expect to see the MC there, especially after he messed with Go Yun Che and talked smack about hunters. Our hero is shocked and asks how the heck he knows all that. The guy says the MC's little viral video is everywhere. Our protagonist is thinking, what video? And before he can finish the thought, the jerk slaps him, saying he can't believe that even after all that trash talk, he actually got into the academy. He calls the MC insane for being just an E-rank who decided to pick a fight with Go Yun Che. But our protagonist's patience is starting to wear thin. The punk sticks his hand out in front of our hero and says, "Pleasure to meet ya. The name's Jusok, but I'm sure you already know who I am." Our guy's face is a storm cloud as he remembers Woo Shik telling him to just grin and bear the insults. So, a moment later, our boy also sticks out his hand and says his name. As soon as he hears it, Jusok just starts cackling. He's howling that the MC's parents must have been idiots to give him the same name as a legendary hunter. Our MC is smiling on the outside, but inside, he's repeating, "Do not punch this kid, do not punch this kid." The jerk then asks what it was like seeing Go Yun Che up close, and adds, "Her figure is insane, and her face is decent for a girl her age." And he starts laughing again, saying that even though she's the director's granddaughter, she has no right to be so arrogant. If it weren't for all her issues and that intense look, she'd totally be my type. Suddenly, a voice cuts in, telling Jusok not to take it too far. Hearing this, both our hero and the loudmouth look over, totally stunned. It's the girl from before. The jerk asks why she's getting involved again. The girl just says, "Jusok, you should probably look in a mirror before you start judging how other people look." After hearing that, he flips out, asking if she's lost her mind. "I let it slide before, but you've crossed the line." But the girl just points out that they're both in Class E, so they're both basically trash. He scoffs, saying he's not on her level since he used to be in Class B, and she claps back that it doesn't matter since he's so useless he can't even use his own abilities, which explains why he's still stuck in school. That kid's dad must have some serious connections, cause otherwise, he would have been expelled a long time ago. And hearing that really ticked Jusok off, so he stomped over to the girl, ready to swing. She squeezed her eyes shut, but for some weird reason, the dude looked totally stunned. The reason? Oh, he was eating the floor. The whole class just stared, completely shocked, wondering where our hero got the guts to pull a move like that. Jusok scrambled up, screaming, "Are you crazy, Jun Woo?" But our guy just gave him a stone-cold bored expression. Jusok, still not believing it, was like, "Did you really just do that?" And our hero's just like, "Yeah, and I can do it again if you want." But Jusok just gets up and snarls, "You really want to start trouble on your first day?" He then yells that he's going to have to beat some sense into our hero to teach him his place on the food chain. But our protagonist couldn't care less and just laughs at him. With a totally annoyed look, our MC asks, "Have you ever been in a real jam before? 'Cause you sure talk a big game." The punk completely ignores him and charges forward, but without even breaking a sweat, our MC easily dodges, thinking, "Man, this kid's punch is a joke, and his footwork is just plain sad. Even a goblin could probably take this chump down." But before they could go another round, someone walked in asking what on earth her students were up to. Jusok gets all huffy, grumbling about how the teacher just had to show up at the best part of his fight. As he's leaving, he promises to find Jun Woo later to finish things, telling him to meet behind the school for some fun. A few hours later, Woo Shik looked like he was about to blow a gasket. He asked how in the world our MC already found trouble on his very first day. Hearing that, our protagonist just said, "Hey, I was holding back, big time." Woo Shik sighed. "I already cleaned up the mess you made, but I have no clue what Jusok is gonna do." Jun Woo looked confused and asked what his friend meant. The guy explained that the kid our MC decked earlier is the son of the minister of the subjugation department, and that little brat does whatever he wants. And since his dad is such a big shot, he never gets in trouble. Our hero just goes, "Ah, so that's why he's such a spoiled punk." The director tells our hero he needs to be way more careful, because if he tangles with Jusok again, there's nothing he can do to help. To which our protagonist replies, "Got it. I'll handle it my own way." Once he's outside the office, our hero lets out a massive sigh. Just then, the girl from before pops up out of nowhere, startling him. "Why did you do that?" she asks. "Do you have any idea who you just messed with?" But he just shrugs. "Don't care. Can't stand rude kids." Then he asks her, "Anyway, why were you about to throw down with him?" All he did was mention Anche, but then it hits him, and he realizes the girl standing right in front of him looks a whole lot like someone he saw during the subjugation. He glances at the name tag on her shirt and sees the name Go Ayan. He then asks, "Wait a minute, are you Inchi's younger sister?" And she says she is. Our MC's brain goes into overdrive, thinking this is awesome and he can totally use this connection. But in the next second, she says she's not really Times Inchi's sister because they have different moms. Apparently, she wasn't even considered her father's daughter and wasn't even acknowledged as part of the family. After hearing that, our hero feels super awkward and asks, "So, do you talk to your grandpa?" She says they have a fantastic relationship, mostly because he's the one who had her legally removed from the family. And with that, all of our boy's brilliant plans went right down the drain. The girl apologizes, saying that since she's a family outcast, he won't get any reward for helping her, and since he's the new kid, he should probably find someone powerful to latch onto instead of trying to be a lone wolf. She says she thought our hero was different, but it turns out he's just like everyone else, only chasing after status. Our MC just shoots back, takes one to no one. "You're no different," because she was totally judging him for being a special admissions kid, and he thought dragging family drama into it was just plain stupid, especially for kids. But then the girl tells our hero to just wait. He's about to get a crash course in what being a special student at this academy really means. He could not care less and just keeps on walking. After seeing that, the girl's left standing there feeling like a total idiot, replaying her big dramatic moment in her head. Elsewhere, our main character is mumbling to himself that he thought this would be a cakewalk, but now he needs a new plan to get close to Unchai. And right then, someone pops up right behind him. This guy asks if his name is Jun Woo, and if he's the special admit from Class E. Our hero is totally caught off guard, thinking, who the heck is this dude? But he just coolly asks what they want from him. A couple of goons were already snickering at him, and then more people started rolling up after the first guy appeared. All of a sudden, our boy was surrounded by 5 dudes in the school hallway. The ringleader tells our MC to come with them, otherwise, he's gonna get a free, front row ticket to his own public humiliation. Sizing up the situation, our protagonist thinks he can feel a migraine coming on. Flash forward to a sketchy warehouse on school property. Our hero was trailing the welcoming committee that showed up earlier. The MC wondered if this was their secret clubhouse or something. I mean, the place smelled like old gym socks and regret. Someone announced that their guest had finally arrived. Turns out, it was Jusok, and he said he had a little question. You know, before the 6 of them go on to make some unforgettable memories. He asked why some special admit nobody would try to pick a fight with him, saying it was so weird it felt like a fever dream. Our guy just asks why they keep calling him a special student and if that's supposed to be some kind of big shot title. Hearing this, Jusok's jaw just about hit the floor. He scoffed that some kid who got in through connections had the nerve to talk to him like he was somebody. He added that if he wasn't already on thin ice, he'd teach the MC a lesson himself, but our guy should be grateful because his buddies were super gentle. Then he yelled for his goon squad to get to work. Right on cue, one of the guys throws a kick at our protagonist, but he dodges it like it's nothing. Our hero was a little surprised because the dude who tried to hit him totally face-planted all on his own. Jusok just laughed, saying our guy was good at dodging, but then, more of them started charging at the MC, yelling about how they were going to teach him a lesson. Without breaking a sweat, our hero weaved around an attack from one of the goons. He just kept avoiding every single swing while asking if the teachers here even cover basic fighting skills. The first guy who confronted him came running again, screaming for him to shut up, but this time, our big guy didn't dodge, and instead served up a fresh knee right to the dude's face. He was thinking this guy was an absolute joke. I mean, he couldn't even handle the basics. After taking that hit from our hero, a whole lot of human ketchup started pouring out of the guy's nose. Then he just crumpled to the ground, leaving all the other goons in total shock. They were all wondering how in the world one guy managed to do that. Our protagonist asked why the party stopped and told them to bring it on, since Jusok promised they were going to make some unforgettable memories. Hearing this, the bully got super mad, starting to cuss out our Jun Woo. With a huge grin, our hero said that if they were going to do this, they should do it right. Meanwhile, Ayan was stomping through the school hallways, talking all kinds of trash about our guy. She was still fuming that the MC called her ridiculous. She muttered that our hero talks a big game, but he has no idea what's really going on. Just then, she overheard a girl say that Jusok's crew had taken Jun Woo somewhere. Other kids were gossiping that his school life was officially over and that he just set the new record for the fastest flameout of a special student. Someone asked if the teachers knew, and another kid shot back that nobody wanted to get mixed up in that mess. Ayan thought to herself that he totally had it coming for acting like he was better than everyone. But then, she suddenly remembered everything he'd said to her. The next thing you know, she stopped dead in her tracks, then started sprinting off somewhere. Back in the warehouse, our hero was just staring down the 3 stooges who brought him there. Jusok was like, "Are you guys kidding me? Just charge the NPC?" But his crew was frozen stiff with fear. After one-shotting their strongest dude, our hero basically said, Why's everyone freaking out? I literally did nothing special. Then our guy added that their skills and mindset were basically at a preschool level. Hearing that, Jusok's whole world just crumbled. Glaring at his buddies, he told them to just use their powers to fight the hero. One of them nervously pointed out that if they used their special moves, they'd get busted and expelled, but Jusok shot back, "Only if you get caught." Hearing that brilliant piece of advice, the goons started gearing up again. They all had these bracelets on, and our hero figured they were the same kind of gizmo Go Yun-che used, probably because carrying a sword is a total pain. But, surprise, the guys still didn't have the guts to attack, and just stood there like lawn ornaments. Seeing this, Jusok dramatically hopped down. He called his friends a bunch of chickens, flashed a bracelet of his own, and activated something that gave him permission to use his abilities. One of his friends warned him, "Dude, if you get caught with that, you're gonna get suspended." But Jusok just told him to shut his trap. He pulled out an item, and the system announced his user skill rank was a D, and that he could now use his powers. Through all this drama, our hero just watched with a completely blank face. A little window popped up, announcing that a spear had been gifted to the owner. Jusok declared he was going to make our hero beg for his life and see how long he'd last. The protagonist just called him a child and asked if he even knew how to use his own powers. Some guy in the crowd yelled, "Is that dude an idiot? The other guy is already holding a weapon." Picking up a broom, the MC asked if Jusok seriously thought making an item appear out of thin air was a real ability. He added that the heckler clearly didn't know anything. Then, our boy pointed the broom right at Jusok. With a suddenly serious look, he demanded, "What gives you the nerve to use an ability on someone outside a dungeon?" Meanwhile, in the academy office, some guy was gossiping with his colleague. "Hey, I heard one of your new students who just enrolled today is already causing trouble." He went on, "Kid's got guts, picking a fight with Jusok from Class B. It's super weird for a special student to be in Class E though. I mean, that basically means he has zero talent as a hunter." But the woman he was talking to just said, "That's not it at all." After she said that, the guy was totally confused. She told him he had it all wrong. The kid was in that class because he completely skipped the aptitude test. Hearing this, the man's jaw hit the floor, because the only people who skip that test are the ones whose power level is so ridiculously high it can't even be measured. He asked, "You mean he's evaluation exempt?" The only other student we've ever had like that was Go Yun-che. "So, are they on the same level?" he asked. "But there's no way someone that talented would be shoved into the lowest ranked class." But the woman explained that the director himself ordered the MC to be put in Class E specifically, so he wouldn't draw any attention. "That's bizarre," he said. "Hunters usually want all the attention they can get." The woman just replied, "I don't know the full story." Before she could say more, someone suddenly screamed her name. It was Go Yoon, and the teacher asked what was wrong. Our heroine gasped that the MC was in a whole lot of trouble. Back at the fight, the protagonist's broom was clashing with Jusok's magic spear. The kid looked seriously ticked off. It was probably because he was barely managing to keep up. Our hero, on the other hand, was effortlessly batting away all of Jusok's attacks, with nothing but a broom. That one bystander was trying to do the math in his head, since that spear should be powerful enough to fight a Baron-level opponent. And yet, this guy was blocking every single attack, and the broom hadn't even splintered. Completely fed up, Jusok screamed, "Why can't I beat a lousy E-ranker?" He lunged again at our hero, who still looked about as interested as someone watching paint dry. Jusok just kept screaming curses while swinging like a madman. But Jun Woo calmly stated that a weapon skill isn't something you should just use recklessly. Some random dude tells our hero to shut his trap, calling him nothing more than a charity case. Our guy, while casually dodging every attack, explains that a weapon's whole personality comes from its core. He then asks what kind of dollar store core Jusok thought he was packing. Hearing that, Jusok completely loses it and tells our hero to go to hell, screaming that the spear's core was a gift from his dad and the only reason he even got into the academy. He whines that after graduation, he was supposed to be a shoo-in for a hunter spot, and if he played his cards right, he could have even made the student council. But now, he's getting clowned by some E-ranked special admission student, right before our hero smacks the dude's hand with a broom. The system chimes in. "User has been disarmed. Immediate retrieval is recommended," it says, leaving the kid totally dumbfounded. The reason for his brain freeze? Our protagonist was now casually holding Jusok's precious spear. He tells the little punk to watch closely and learn how a real hunter handles his business, but then suddenly, the entire building goes pitch black. All the guys were freaking out, wondering what was going on, with one of them yelling that it felt like it was suddenly the middle of the night. But slowly, things started to go back to normal. The lights came back on, and one of the goons tells his buddy to look at his feet. That's when every single one of them had a full-on panic attack. They watched in horror as their own shadows started peeling themselves off the floor. The guy who just got his weapon jacked stood there completely stunned, thinking something had been swiped from him as he searched for the now missing shadows. Meanwhile, our hero was just radiating a seriously creepy dark aura. With a look of pure terror, the bully was thinking, "No way, this can't be happening," wondering if that was the same power from his weapon's core, the very one he'd just been using. And yeah, the reason was pretty obvious. Our boy was cackling like a supervillain while this nasty corrupted energy poured out of him. The goon tried to backpedal and get away, but he'd already sprung a major leak in his pants as our hero leveled the spear right at his throat. Jusak started blubbering for his life. With a stone-cold look, our hero geared up to attack, and in the next instant, he lunged forward with the spear. Seeing this, the bully just started bawling and trying to crawl away. But, thanks to some killer comedic timing, the system announced the 1-minute trial was up, and the spear began to fade away. Jun Woo just shrugged and said, "Yeah, that's probably enough." With Jusak passed out cold, our main man started nudging the kid with his foot to wake him up. He just kept saying, "Hey, wakey wakey, sunshine." At that, the kid's eyes fluttered open, but the second he saw the MC, he let out a shriek that could break glass. Our hero just looked bored. "Chill out, I didn't do anything, get up." The bully shakily got to his feet, staring at the protagonist in absolute terror. Our hero just called Jusak a child, wearing a super strange expression. "You're going to answer a question for me," he said. "Weapons and abilities are for hunting monsters, right? So wouldn't you say using them outside a dungeon is, I don't know, a little dangerous?" But Jusak just stood there, completely silent. Our guy leaned in. "I'm gonna need you to use your words," and just like that, the kid squeaked out that he agreed, admitting it was extremely dangerous. The protagonist nodded. "Good. Because if I ever catch you pulling that crap in front of me again, there will be consequences." Then, turning to the other goon who jumped him, he motioned him over. "Hey, you, front and center." He then told the guy he needed him to land a few more punches, which just made the dude's brain short-circuit. Jun Woo clarified, "And I mean your best shot. You really want the whole school laughing at you for getting your butt kicked by the new guy?" he asked. The bully actually thanked him before asking, "But why?" "Let's just say I'm not a fan of the spotlight," the MC replied. The goon hesitated. "For real?" Jun Woo nodded. "It has to be your strongest punch, though, and if it feels like a love tap, all of you are getting a beatdown." After hearing that, the guy wound up for the punch of his life, and the very moment his fist met our hero's face, the teachers burst into the warehouse. The woman saw the scene and gasped, "My goodness, there's red stuff all over the floor coming from him." Yuban snapped that they'd gone way too far, especially since it was the kid's first day. The bully just whimpered, That red stuff? That's mine." The teacher was like, "Get to my office, now," and pointed right at Go. A few minutes on, our main guy is shuffling along, grumbling that his body feels about as sturdy as a wet napkin. He spots the girl and is like, "What are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be at the infirmary?" She just gives him the silent treatment, so he sighs. "Look, you don't need to worry about it. I can handle my own business." And Ayan just hits him with, "Who are you, really?" He plays it cool, just a normal student who got what was coming to him, but she's not buying it. "Oh, please, drop the act. I saw the whole show back there." Turns out, the teacher had sent her to snoop around behind the academy, and while she was looking for our boy, she heard a whole lot of commotion. So, naturally, she went to check it out. Let's just say she was a tad freaked out when she saw what our hero did to those jabronis. Ayan asked why he was slumming it in Class E when he could clearly be top dog, but he just shut her down, saying it was none of her business. He's just trying to fly under the radar, and told her to forget she ever saw anything. Ayan's like, "You know what? You're right. We're exactly the same." Hearing that totally threw him for a loop. She admitted she'd completely judged him just because he was a special student. And, yeah, she even kind of hated his guts. So the girl apologizes, and our hero's just like, "It's fine, I just really like to see the nurse now." But Ayan's not done with him yet. She asks our hero for a huge favor. Help her get onto the student council. Our guy is so stunned, he's like, "Say what now?" Ayan explains that to get a seat at the cool kids' table, she needs a sponsor. And the MC asks, "So you're just going to take advantage of this person?" She's like, "That's pretty much the plan," which is why nobody wanted the job. And right as she's about to ask him for help, he flat out refuses, saying he's swamped. Ayan fires back, "I'm not asking for a freebie. If there's something you want, I can get it." But he's just like, "Trust me, what I want, you can't provide." She keeps rattling off a bunch of offers, and he turns them all down, until she dangles the one thing he can't resist, an introduction to Unche. His ears perk right up. "Are you for real?" Our hero asks how that's even possible, seeing as she got booted from her own house. But the girl says, "Nah, that's not the deal." Then she pulls this scheming little face while trying to cook up the right words with a smile. Ayan explains that since her sister is on the student council, they'd be able to talk if she gets in. The MC gets all weird and tells her to just forget it. He says he'll handle it on his own. But right then, his body decides to totally betray him. He gets super dizzy and just collapses, face first onto the ground. The girl freaks out, asking what's wrong with him, and our protagonist croaks out. Elsewhere, it's emergency meeting time at the Hunter Academy. A teacher says, "This is the second time Juso has pulled a stunt with his ability," and another prof chimes in, "That's grounds for immediate expulsion." Owen agrees, saying, "We can't just let this slide again." The first teacher nods. "I saw the whole thing with my own 2 eyes." A man asks for the director's take on the whole mess. Woo Shek looks over at the teacher who brought Ayan in. He asks, "Is it true that Justok and his posse jumped the MC?" She confirms it, saying she saw everything. He asks again, "You're positive you saw him getting attacked?" And she gives him the same answer. Our favorite director just starts cracking up, thanking the protagonist for taking one for the team. This leaves the teacher completely baffled. "But sir, using abilities is forbidden, and this isn't his first rodeo. There have to be consequences." The director announces that, according to the rulebook, Jusik should be getting the boot, but someone interrupts. They ask to say something important, and Woo-sik gives them the floor. Man, the person who spoke has zero shame, and starts whining that kicking the kid out was way too harsh. Woo-sik is like, "Seriously, why?" And this shameless dude actually replies that it's just, normal teenage shenanigans. But my favorite teacher snaps back, yelling that this was a whole lot more than just an oopsie. It could have turned into a full-blown catastrophe. But the slimeball argues that Jusok is some gifted prodigy who's going to be a pillar of the academy, then asks if she'd be okay, knowing she single-handedly wrecked his future over one tiny mistake, which actually makes Yubin feel crummy. The guy then admits, "Okay, fine, Jusok messed up, it was a big one." But he keeps going, saying expulsion is overkill and a 1-week timeout would be plenty for the boy to think about what he's done. Wishik, trying to play peacemaker, says he gets what Jimin is saying and that they'll figure out Jusak's punishment later. Then he shuts it down, declaring they've talked enough. And with that, meeting adjourned. All the teachers start bailing out of the room, leaving the story's runner-up for Jerk of the Year behind. And Mr. Shameless just smirks down at his phone. Next thing you know, he's making a call. And guess who's on the other end? The minister, who also happens to be Jusok's daddy. Juman tells him the punishment's just going to be a slap on the wrist, and that right now, his boy's got the best shot at getting into the student council. With a super villainy tone, he says he's going to teach our main character a lesson, and with the end-of-month evaluations right around the corner, it'll be a piece of cake. Our protagonist is thinking that it's already been 3 days since he started this school, and he still hasn't seen Unchai anywhere, and he's pretty sure his entire class is full of duds with zero talent for being hunters, and the lessons have taught him absolutely nothing. Either way, there's no way for him to shine at the moment. But before he can even finish that thought, whack! Someone smacks him right on the head. And here we are, right back at the scene from the beginning of the story, where they were giving our hero a hard time. They're even recycling the same old lines. And these guys are the exact same goons who got totally wrecked back in the warehouse. Our main dude figures that to everyone else, he just looks like their personal errand boy. But what's really going on is a completely different story. The student who clocked him says our guy is totally hopeless, and needs to follow him to learn a thing or two. Then, the former punching bags start marching out of the classroom. Out in the school hallway, our protagonist is trailing the boys, and the second he says a word, 2 of them nearly jump out of their skin. Our hero complains, "Hey, that slap to my head actually hurt, you know." Hearing this, the 3 stooges immediately start apologizing. The MC is like, "Are you guys just taking out your frustrations on me?" And the leader quickly says, No, it's not like that at all." He claims he only did it because Jun Woo said to make it look as real as possible. The protagonist cuts to the chase and asks if they did what he asked. But the guy starts whining that it's super hard for first-year students to get anywhere near the student council. After hearing that, our protagonist asks, "So you found out nothing?" And the guy's like, "Well, we did discover a few things." He says that some people mentioned Yoon Chae pretty much never goes to school. And hearing this, the MC asks, "Is that all?" The boy adds that she doesn't have a lot of friends. And apparently, the only person she's tight with is another student council member named Jong Yan. The MC thinks, finally, a useful piece of info, and asks where this person is. The goon then says that Jong Hyun also almost never comes to school. Hearing this, our protagonist is officially over it. He just tells them to get out of his face. At that, the boys apologize and swear they'll bring back something useful next time. Our protagonist is starting to get a headache when he senses someone behind him. That person is Yen, and she tells him flat out, this isn't gonna work. After spotting her, he asks if she's been following him. The girl just says that Zhang Yen is an official member of the student council, which means he's not exactly an easy guy to meet. The MC asks why it's so hard to find these people, since the student council isn't that big of a deal. However, she says it's a huge deal because only the absolute cream of the crop gets in. And our hero was like, dude, they're just kids. Every single person here is a student. But Ayan explained that if you somehow get on the council, you're automatically upgraded to a hunter and get to go on real deal missions. And since all the council members have parents with serious pull, the teachers basically worship the ground they walk on, giving them total power at school. She said they're in a whole different league, and with the way our boy was fumbling around, he wouldn't even find a clue, let alone go unshe. So Jun Woo asked, alright, is there a plan B for finding her? The girl was just about to suggest he join the student council, but he shot that idea down immediately. Hearing that, she was totally confused and asked why he was so allergic to the idea. Our hero said that Ayan herself mentioned only people with actual talent get noticed, and well, he didn't have any. The girl shot back, then just teach me. I'll work my butt off, which made our protagonist just crack up. Then he told her that if she tried to learn from him, she was in for a world of pain. And just like that, you could hear a pin drop. He then said he had no idea why Ayan was so obsessed with the council, and told her to stop trying to bite off more than she could chew. But the girl was like, I don't care about any of that, which totally floored Jun Woo. She plowed on, saying if she couldn't make it onto the council, she'd rather just jump to another world, and begged our hero to train her. Then she declared she wanted to learn every single thing about monster whooping and that she'd dedicate her life to training, no excuses. Jun Woo started to walk off, saying, Welp, break's over. But the girl yelled after him, Hey, you owe me an answer. Our big guy had a little smirk on his face, thinking to himself that she had some serious guts. It had been a long time since he'd seen that kind of fire in someone, and because of it, she might actually be useful down the road. Elsewhere, someone was hyping up their students, and that someone was our favorite teacher, asking if they were ready for the monthly evaluation. For that reason, she told the students to please, for the love of everything, try on the exam, because their scores last month were a complete dumpster fire. Just as she was getting on a roll, someone waltzed in, apologizing for crashing her class. It was that shameless teacher, and he announced he was there to drop a bomb about the upcoming monthly exam. The man declared that the test for all first-year students would be a hands-on activity inside a dungeon. Hearing this, all the students' brains collectively short-circuited. Our heroine was wondering if this was a prank, and our protagonist looked about as happy as a cat in a bathtub. The teacher insisted that couldn't be right, but the shameless dude told her to keep her voice down in front of the kiddos. Yuban argued a practical exam was just insane, and the shameless guy shot back, Oh, are you saying Class E can't handle it? She was speechless, and the man said it didn't really matter, since the decision was already set in stone. He then had the nerve to add that leaving students out of it would be discriminatory. Then he asked how long they were planning on being wallflowers, since students needed to complete the basic hunter in training checklist. The MC thought this was nuts because this class knew nothing. They were basically toddlers, and he was positive something was up, because no sane teacher would just throw kids into a dungeon. The shameless man then said if they didn't want to take the exam, they could just tuck their tails and take remedial classes instead. Looking right at our protagonist, the creep asked if the MC knew that bailing on the exam would mean getting kicked out of the school for good, and then he just walked off. The guy said he'd be personally running the show, and our hero thought that they were 100% hiding something, since there's no way that Clown could orchestrate this alone. Someone with major influence had to be pulling his strings. Over in the director's office, Woo-shik confirmed that it was just as they'd feared. The Minister of Civilization of Korea was the one behind the whole mess. Our MC said, So I'm on a blacklist because of Jusok. The director apologized, saying he really did try his best to stop it, but because Myunjin was basically a living legend at the academy with roots deeper than a redwood, there was jack squat he could do about it. Our hero shot back that he got it, tough spot and all. The director kept rambling on with the details, but the protagonist just cut him off, saying he'd heard enough and wasn't signing up for any more of this sob story. Ushik then asked what his buddy's brilliant plan was to get out of this whole witch hunt. The MC was like, Duh, I'm taking the exam. I still haven't seen Unchai, and getting kicked out is not on my to-do list. Then, staring down the director, our guy asked if his pal had any cool toys. You know, weapons. The man flat out said he had absolutely nothing. The MC argued he couldn't just waltz into a dungeon with his bare hands and begged for literally anything to fight with, but Wishik doubled down, insisting he was broke. Apparently, items were just way too risky. Hearing this, our hero looked a little stunned before grabbing his friend's arm. He asked if Wishik had finally sprouted a backbone big enough to lie straight to his face. The director swore he wasn't lying, right before the MC's eyes landed on the ring on his buddy's finger. He then casually asked what that little trinket was. And just like that, the second biggest doofus in this story knew the jig was up and his secret was totally busted. Seeing as that was one of the most legendary items ever, the Ring of Patelis, our hero and his friend suddenly had a lot to talk about. The MC asked if Wishik seriously still had it after, 50 years? The guy admitted that, yeah, he only dared to start wearing it after their old leader got wiped out. He then got all misty-eyed, remembering when the protagonist saved him and let him join the team, even though he was a total nobody back in the day. Our hero was like, "Dude, what are you doing?" and then snatched the ring right off his hand. He declared, "I'll be borrowing this." The protagonist grinned, holding the item, a little piece of his past from long before he got taken off the board. Wishik nervously asked if that was really a good idea, since it basically proved he wasn't an E rank. But the MC just shrugged, saying it was a dungeon for a bunch of kids, so it probably wasn't that big of a deal. Right as the protagonist was about to bounce from the director's office, the man said he had one more thing to tell him. Our hero turned, asking what was up. Wishik opened his mouth, but before a single word could escape, Jun Woo slammed the door shut and was already halfway down the hall. The poor guy just stood there thinking that maybe it was time to just quit his job as the academy's president. Meanwhile, in the hallway, that shameless teacher was on the prowl. A second later, he was knocking on the door to the Hunter Academy's special department. When the door swung open, he looked a little shocked by the scene inside, and the reason for his surprise was our main heroine, chilling in the room. He blurted out, "Go Unch, what are you doing here? Did you finally decide to show up to school for the first time?" Hearing that, the girl shot back, asking why he was just barging into her room like he owned the place. The guy got all huffy and said teachers could go wherever they wanted, adding that she shouldn't get a big head just because she's on the student council. But after he dropped that line, our heroine just stared at him in dead silence. Realizing he'd messed up, the shameless dude got super awkward, thinking he should probably just play nice for now. Since he was already there, he brought up the first-year evaluation and mentioned they'd decided to stick someone from the student council on supervisor duty. He added that this time it was going to be a practical exam. The girl just looked at him and asked if he was seriously throwing first-year students into a practical exam. He confirmed it, then asked if she was maybe interested in the gig. She, however, said she couldn't do it, so the man asked if she could pass it on to the other members, but she shot him down again, saying her friends couldn't do it either. The shameless guy couldn't believe it and asked if she was telling him to just postpone the whole thing. She said, "Yep, because if they couldn't run it without the student council, it was probably better to just punt it to next year, especially since there was zero benefit for them." Then she added that if he wanted to pay her, maybe she'd think about it. At that, the man totally lost it and screamed, asking if she really thought she was all that just for being on the council. Jimin claimed he was the one who propped her up to be somebody at this school and asked if she honestly thought she did it all by herself. Hearing this, the girl basically told him to aim his grumpy pants attitude somewhere else, saying her grandpa was the one who threw shade at him, and she was just an innocent bystander. And to top it off, she suggested he try not being a total jerk to the council, which left Junman completely speechless. After his brain rebooted, he finally asked where she'd heard the gossip about his judgment, but before she could spill the tea, the door swung open. In waltzes some guy, all smiles, going, "Teacher, long time no see," and asked if there was some super important business to discuss. The man just sighed and said he needed a council member to babysit the exams. The kid immediately asked if Cha was on board, and the man flatly said nope, she wasn't. The student just shrugged. "Well, if she's out, I'll do it. My schedule is wide open." Junman gave him the side eye, asking if he was for real. The kid puffed out his chest. Hello? Student council member right here, duh." Jimin's internal monologue was screaming that this dude spelled trouble, and he seriously debated giving him the task. However, in a moment of sheer desperation, the man caved, told the student to sign the paperwork and forward it to his teacher. All the while, Go Unchi was observing the whole train wreck, as the boy sported a smile that was all kinds of shady. She asked what he was going to do about his subjugation schedule, and he just said he'd ditch it since he wasn't a superstar like her, so nobody would even notice he was gone. She was like, "Why?" and said it made zero sense for him to help Professor Cha when he clearly couldn't stand the guy. The kid leaned in. "Simple. I'm taking the gig to be his shadow. We don't want a repeat of *that times accident. Plus, He admitted he was dying to know the test results because he'd heard a rumor that the kid from that whole hospital fiasco had snagged a special spot as a first year. Jay's brain was doing a total 404 error. She was thinking that our main character seemed to know his stuff about subjugations, and she'd totally pegged him as an existing student. The other guy just said he'd gotten curious, so he'd been keeping tabs on our protagonist. First day, he trounces the Jusox group and then pulls a no-show for the evaluation, just like she did. Then, he hit her with, "Come on, aren't you just a little bit curious about what makes this guy tick?" Meanwhile, over at the Academy's glorified playground, aka the training grounds, our hero was doing a head count and thinking that a bunch of folks from Class C and D must have hit the snooze button. The B-rank students, however, were all there, and they seemed way too eager to flex their skills for the girls. But in the MC's class, it was a party of two, which prompted someone to ask the protagonist, "So, it's just the two of us going into this death trap?" That person was Ayan, who was warming up while saying it was actually awesome. She figured with just the two of them, they wouldn't have to wait in line to fight. Our hero just stared and asked what in the world she was doing there. The girl looked at him like he was dense and said, taking the test? Obviously. Ayan then promised she wouldn't be dead weight, so he didn't need to worry. But Jun was not having it, saying that low level doesn't exactly mean it's a walk in the park. Our hero told her to back off while he was still being nice about it, and explained that this whole test was basically designed to make Class E rage quit from the get-go. But Ayan was acting like she couldn't hear a word he was saying, insisting she'd already told him she'd do anything to get into the student council, and apparently, you can't fail this exam if you want to join their little club. And just as our MC was about to argue some more, a voice boomed, telling all the students to shut up and listen. Oh great, it was that shameless teacher. He claimed the test wasn't dangerous, but since it was a school thing, they probably shouldn't take a nap in the middle of it. He kept on talking, saying the test was going down inside a low-grade dungeon and that each team could have up to 8 players. After a bit of chit-chat, the exam was set to kick off with Class A, while everyone else got to wait their turn. Right as someone new walked into the room, the teacher announced that everyone should already know this guy, since he was a big shot on the student council. And what do you know? It was the same kid from before. He introduced himself as Kim Jong-un. Hearing that, our hero's brain did a little record scratch, and he wondered if he'd crossed paths with this dude before. That name was definitely ringing a bell somewhere. Locking eyes with our protagonist, the shameless teacher mentioned that. So, since Class E was basically a 2-person club, they decided to boot Jun Woo and Yun over to Class D. And who should pop up to say hi but that guy from before? The chumps our hero had previously mopped the floor with were looking all squirrely, trying to puff out their chests and act tough. Our girl totally called them out, saying they couldn't fake confidence to save their lives. I mean, it was painfully obvious they were putting on a show. The other students were already moaning and groaning about being stuck on a team with the special admission kid. One dude actually whined, "Ugh, why do we have to be in the same group as a special student?" And a girl complained that now they'd have to clear the mission like they were 2 members short. Then, one of the guys who got his butt handed to him by the MC started to apologize. And right as he was about to launch into a sob story, our hero cut him off like, "Dude, it's not a big deal." Then, without missing a beat, he asked for the 411 on the dungeon. Someone piped up that they'd scraped some info together. A kid then literally bowed to our protagonist and handed him a tablet, saying he should check out the deets. Seeing this, everyone's brain just about short-circuited. Somebody was actually bowing to the school's #1 nobody? And then, just a second later, that same kid scoffed, saying our hero was a total freeloader since he couldn't even dig up his own info and had to leech off everyone else. A few hours later, standing in front of a spooky-looking cave, John Ann asked if the last team was finally ready to go. Han declared that his freshmen should be totally capable of figuring out the route. The teacher basically said the test ends once you find the big baddie inside and punch its ticket. With a super sketchy smile, he asked if the students had any other burning questions. Seeing that grin, our protagonist just clammed up, watching this shady character like a hawk. In a flash, John Ann announced that the final team could get a move on, and just like that, our hero's squad wandered into the dungeon. Our hero strolled through the dungeon, thinking the place was pretty basic. You know, your standard issue cave with your standard issue cave monsters. But suddenly, the MC heard a huge racket that made him jump. The reason? A freaking tidal wave of giant rat things was stampeding right at them. Naturally, they all started screaming their heads off, yelling stuff like, "There are way too many of them, and we gotta get ready to fight." The system chimed in like, "You are now authorized to use your cool powers." Jun Woo, however, had a completely different look on his face, muttering to himself. He was basically thinking, "Let's see what these rookies have got." One of the boys shot out a little gust of wind, while another went full-on sniper mode with his ability. And the last guy flipped a switch on a skill that basically sent him into a rage fest. They were somehow, barely, keeping the ratpocalypse at bay, with one student just pew-pewing air bullets at them. Thanks to all that, they were just barely fending off the monster swarm. The MC thought to himself, "Yep, called it. This is the train wreck I expected." They could hardly use their own powers and had zero clue how they even worked. And it was the same story for all the other students, too. They were all just swinging their swords around like they were trying to hit a piñata blindfolded. Out of everyone, only one person actually looked like they knew what they were doing. And that was our heroine, who was rocking a fire skill. Next thing you know, a wall of fire turned the monsters into a screaming pile of charcoal. The MC made a mental note that Ayan actually knew how to throw down. Even though Classy didn't get any real lessons, she'd somehow taught herself. He had to admit, for a kid, she was a pretty decent fighter. But it didn't really change the fact that she was still a total newbie. The other students were already gassed, wondering if this was really the easy dungeon since the monsters just wouldn't quit. The second those words left his mouth, a rat made a beeline for one of the guys, but in the very next instant, our main man activated the Patella's ring. The system went, "Warning. User is about to do something awesome." The protagonist was just getting ready to flick a little stone, and right after that, that monster got completely vaporized by our hero. It went flying into a wall and became a modern art splatter, leaving the kid it was about to eat totally baffled. The MC told the kid to watch his back and stop swinging wildly, but after hearing that, the little brat told our hero to shut up, and the girl accused him of trying to hog all the points. After that, our guy just had to wonder if he was surrounded by idiots who couldn't read the room. One of the other boys finally asked, "Wait, did Jun Woo really just do that?" And the redhead whined that the dungeon was way harder than he expected, making our guy sigh, thinking, "Man, this team is made of wet noodles." They were totally clueless that they'd almost been turned into a red smear on the wall. There was no way they could go on. They were already gassed, and it hadn't even been 5 minutes since they stepped inside. Because of that, the only one who seemed remotely useful was Goen. But that didn't change a thing since he couldn't bank on her help. He was so ready to just ditch the whole lot of them, but he couldn't, since there was an audience, and this dungeon was giving off some seriously funky vibes. Our hero shot a look at Mr. Shameless, and asked if he didn't think the dungeon was a little weird, you know, with the monster population boom right at the front door. He suggested something might be broken and it'd be smart to pause the hunt and figure things out. But Juman just snapped, asking if the MC was good for anything at all, and told him to quit yapping. As he stormed off, he muttered that our guy was getting way too big for his britches and needed to learn his place, since he was the supervisor and he'd be the one calling the shots. Our hero yelled back that if they kept this up, someone was going to get wrecked, and right as he was about to say more, the jerk cut Jun Woo off, telling the students to listen up. He announced that if any of the students were feeling tired and didn't feel like finishing the exam, they were free to take a hike. Naturally, not a single student said a word. It was just a super awkward silence in response to the man's question. The other spineless wonders also kept their mouths shut. Then Jimin piped up that if our hero was so tired, he should just quit by himself and stop trying to drag everyone else down with him, adding that if he caused any more trouble, he'd be disqualified on the spot. But then, a hand landed on our main guy's shoulder, and a voice told him not to sweat it. The hand belonged to Jonghyun, who said that if the dungeon actually got dangerous, he would step in and handle it. Walking away, he added that even though he might not look all that tough, he was a member of the student council, so our hero could just chill out. Jun Woo just watched the kid leave, trying to process what was even happening anymore. A few minutes later, the background characters were suddenly all smiles as one of them shouted that they'd finally hit the boss room. But just as quickly, the party died and everyone went dead silent. Noticing this, our hero sighed yet again, thinking they were already freaking out before they'd even laid eyes on the boss. He strode toward the door, saying he'd open the boss room. Ayan insisted they should open it together, and when he tried to say he could handle it, she just bulldozed right over him, saying she was helping. Period. She accused him of probably laughing his head off inside, thinking everyone was a total chicken, and proudly declared that she wasn't scared. Hearing that, our hero just kinda glanced to the side, trying to play it cool. In the next moment, the two of them heaved open the gates to the boss's lair, but the second they looked inside, our hero's jaw dropped. The reason? A giant monster was just sprawled out on the ground, with some red stuff oozing out of its head. The creature had already been clobbered, and there was a whole lot of that red stuff all over the floor. One of the guys stammered if that thing on the floor was really the boss, and the girl next to him was just as shocked as everyone wondered if it had already been sent to the next life. Jimin was also completely baffled, asking what in the world happened, and Heen pointed out that the dungeon was supposed to be untouched. Our heroine looked at the MC and asked if he had a clue. Our hero stated that someone had been messing around inside the dungeon, and followed that up by screaming for everyone to fall back immediately. After hearing this, the students, with pure terror on their faces, just stared and asked the brilliant question, "Why should we run?" So the protagonist spelled it out, "We need to get out of here, like, right now, because some party crasher has been in this dungeon." A second later, out of absolutely nowhere, a gigantic shadow fell over Jun Woo and our heroine. And when our MC got his first look at it, he felt a level of fear that makes you question your life choices. After all, the creature was dozens of times bigger than him. The students were, to put it mildly, completely petrified, and booked it the second they saw how massive this thing was. You see, a dungeon interference is just a fancy way of saying the boss got clapped by an even bigger monster that just waltzed into the area. This was basically like winning the lottery, but instead of cash, you get mauled. It almost never happens in a low-level dungeon. Our heroine looked like she'd just seen a ghost. Meanwhile, our hero's knees were knocking a sick beat. This creature was all up in his personal space, and the system calmly identified it as a three-tailed tiger. "Thanks for the heads up, Captain Obvious." The MC was thinking, "Well, this is a fine mess." This was a green-ranked big bad crashing a purple-ranked party. The students were just screaming their heads off and running for the hills, shouting that they had to find the exit as soon as possible. But plot twist, the creature completely ignored our main character and leaped right for everyone else. It landed with the grace of a meteor, wrecking everything in sight. The teacher looked like he was about to faint, while Han heroically told his classmates to get behind him. Just then, the system went ****, announcing that the user's authorization was a go, and rank 6 skills were officially online. It was go time. In the next second, the whole dungeon lit up like a rave, with all the flashy lights shooting straight out of the kid's arm. Turns out John Yen's power was called Porcupine's Wrath. He yelled over to the MC, saying he couldn't possibly take down a green-ranked baddie by himself, and asked if our guy was going to help or just stand there looking pretty. Hearing this, our hero was like, "Wait, why me?" Ken apologized and spilled the beans, admitting he already knew our protagonist was packing some serious heat since he'd managed to pass without even taking the entrance exam. After that bombshell, everyone's jaw hit the floor, and some student wondered if the MC was another Cha. Our hero was totally baffled. Flashback to a few days earlier, a system window had popped up saying the user's abilities were literally off the charts. Wushik, not surprised at all, had just said that the MC had technically passed the exam. Our hero shot back that he was trying to keep a low profile. The man explained that this was one of those rare situations where his hands were pretty much tied, and if our boy wanted to stay quiet, the teachers would probably just ignore him and not make a big deal out of it. But then, in the very next breath, he added that when he said he could handle it, he meant that basically no one would pay any attention to it anyway. The protagonist just muttered to himself that he really shouldn't have done that. Back in the dungeon, our hero charged forward, basically saying, "All right, fine, I'll do my best." Heon thanked him and told our hero not to worry his pretty little head. Right after that, the monster wound up to attack the duo. But for some weird reason, Heon looked totally confused, even as he was getting ready to block the hit. He spotted an opening and fired off a volley of mana spikes at the tiger. After the flashy move, the monster tried to defend itself from Ken's pokes, but the kid gave it zero breathing room and immediately launched another barrage. He managed to stick 2 more spikes right into the monster's hide. After getting poked again, the creature went into a total frenzy. One of the students commented that the student council members were on a whole other level, while a girl said that compared to them, they were all just a bunch of kids. Then, looking at the MC, some students pointed out that he wasn't really doing anything, just kind of standing there while Heon did all the heavy lifting. A student asked if Heon was trying to give the MC some kind of special treatment, but the girl insisted that was impossible. The guy, however, said he'd been annoyed with our hero from the get-go and wasn't about to let him get a free ride. He felt like he needed to call him out on something. The story's third biggest, GOAT, kept pressing the attack, looking for a way to hit the creature. He was getting confused, thinking he'd never had such an awesome fight before, and realized that taking on a green-ranked boss this easily felt like someone was handing him the victory on a silver platter. Then he passed by our protagonist and got even more puzzled. He started to wonder if our hero was the one making it all happen, just letting him take all the credit. But Han quickly snapped out of it as the tiger tried to take another swipe at him. Our hero casually flicked a pebble, which pinged right off the monster's body. The tiger immediately started to look dizzy. Our boy was secretly nerfing the big lug. That's when it finally clicked for the kid. Every single time the creature tried to get close, our hero was using some kind of ability to gently push it away. And apparently, he'd read the monster's instruction manual. Our main character was trying to find a weak spot to poke, but good luck with that, unless you were psychic and knew where the beast would swing next. But the craziest part? Our guy was doing all this on the down low, making everyone else wonder if he was secretly Batman. Anyway, no time for an identity crisis. He had a tiger to beat up so these kids could find the exit sign. And just like that, he bonked the monster right on the noggin again. And with that 1-2 punch, the creature got totally wrecked by our student council muscle. Meanwhile, the kid was off in La La Land, staring into space, just gazing at the tiger's now very dead body. After watching that beatdown, the other students were basically having a collective panic attack, since they figured anyone on the student council must be a total legend. They immediately started cheering, saying their senior was the G.O.A.T. And that, of course, they expected nothing less from a council member. The shameless dude was just chuckling to himself, thinking he'd totally dodged a repeat of that disaster from 2 years back. But nope, looks like everything was coming up roses. And hey, since Jun Woo probably got a free pass on his evaluation for no good reason, this was the perfect excuse to get him kicked out of the academy. But our hero cut in like, "Hold your horses, everybody. That kitty cat is still breathing." He warned them it was a really bad idea to stick around, so they all needed to scram. But then, out of the blue, some loudmouth started yelling, telling our main character to get a clue. It was that same moron from before, accusing our hero of just trying to farm some extra credit points. Then the genius jumped right in front of the monster. This clown announced he wasn't about to let Mr. Hero steal his thunder, and that he'd be the one to land the finishing move. And what a happy coincidence. The tiger's eyes popped right open, and it pounced on this side character, who I was really hoping would get yeeted from the story. Our hero was thinking, wow, this guy's an absolute brainiac for pulling a stunt like that. But, to my dismay and probably yours too, the number 2 big shot, G08, jumped in to save the dummy, and a split second later, his arm decided to part ways with his body, which really makes you ask, author, did we have to go there? Next thing you know, the guy's coughing up a whole lot of human ketchup. The dude who caused all this was just standing there, completely stunned. Everyone else, including the professor, was just staring in pure horror. The poor guy was down for the count while everyone was screaming, "Is he breathing?" Then Jemin yelled that they needed to bolt, but the students were like, "What about him?" But the guy basically said, "Less worrying, more running." Meanwhile, our heroine was having a full-blown freak-out, trying to figure out how she could possibly help. I mean, a top-tier student council member just got taken out in one hit. And to make matters worse, the monster was now doing the stare-down right in her face. The girl was telling herself, "Okay, deep breaths, just stay cool." After all, the big kitty was scared of fire, and lucky for her, that was her whole gimmick. But when she went to light it up, nothing happened. Turns out, she was so terrified she couldn't do a thing. She realized her body was doing the cha-cha all on its own, and she was totally frozen. Yeah, she was completely useless. A second later, the creature made a beeline for our heroine, but just then, a little ding from the system announced that the user had activated explosive flow, and in the blink of an eye, a fist came flying at the monster. Of course, it was our hero who clocked the creature right in the gut, sending it sailing through the air. Seeing this, the girl's jaw hit the floor, wondering if she was hallucinating our main character taking out the beast. With just one punch. Seriously, after our hero connected, that tiger was launched into another zip code. Our protagonist just casually walked away from the scene. That side character from before was now bawling his eyes out where our boy G08 had gone down. And I gotta admit, I'm not as annoyed with the guy anymore. He just seems like a doofus, not a villain. But just then, someone snatched him up by the collar. It was our hero, of course, who told the clown to quit messing around and get Yan out of there, unless he wanted a one-way ticket to another dimension. Our protagonist then yelled for the big dude to help Yan while everyone else needed to play hide and seek. It was clear our hero was gearing up for round 2, thinking to himself that he'd really messed up. He knew he shouldn't have been playing it cool in the background and could have just ended this whole mess from the get-go. Alright, so this thing is screaming its lungs out right in our boy's face. Then it swings for the fences, but nope. Our G08 just sidesteps it like it's nothing. Then, get this, the tiger starts pulling pointy things out of its own body. It chucks a spear-looking thing at our main character, but he pulls a Neo from the Matrix and dodges it. Just as the system dings weapon capacity, online, our guy activates his flow and absolutely decks the creature with another solid punch. Okay, I'm calling it, that monster's gotta be toast. There's no way it's getting up from that. Oh, wait, I take it back. Our hero is already powering up something else. Scratch that, it's the same skill, but now he's throwing a whole flurry of punches at once. The crowd is just standing there, jaws on the floor. I mean, can you blame them? Our boy is actually taking down this tiger. Even our favorite girl is giving him those "that's my future hubby" eyes. Meanwhile, Mr. Shameless over there is completely baffled. He's watching our guy absolutely mop the floor with this tiger, probably thinking, wait, wasn't this the dude who was doing jack squat a minute ago? He's a whole new person. And now the dude's getting all salty, wondering if our guy somehow cheated on his exam with fighting skills like that. Our protagonist is out there schooling the veterans while using an ancient weapon, and then the professor yells, "Hey, using an ancient supernatural weapon is super dangerous, you know." But our hero just gives zero flips and keeps pushing forward, probably thinking, yeah, no duh, Sherlock. You're probably talking about the nasty side effects. 'Cause, you know, every ancient weapon has a catch. The effects can get wacky, and sometimes they just straight up unalive the user. But hey, the reason he's using it is because they're ridiculously powerful. This bracelet is super easy to use and packs the biggest punch with zero kickback. Still, with a normal one, you can only use the powers of the monster it's made from. A times supernatural times weapon, though, cranks that monster's power up to 11, and it totally reshapes itself for the hunter to use, making it way stronger. Our main character is just thinking, man, the new crop of hunters are a bunch of softies. Things might be chill now, but the monsters are only gonna level up later. And speak of the devil, the tiger just teleports right behind him. So our girl screams, "Babe, look out behind you." The furry menace takes a swipe, but our GO8 dodges it like he's swatting a fly. The system dings again. Flow attack activated, and you can just see the pure panic on the creature's face. Our dude is doing a sick Beyblade spin in the air, and then he winds up for a punch on the tiger. The impact is so massive the monster squints one of its eyes shut from the sheer force of that explosive fist. The shockwave even knocks back the onlookers and our girl. The smoke clears, and our protagonist is thinking, so, the catch with this Patella's ring is, it eats the user's fear. But hold up, the furry jerk actually manages to open its eye again, even after getting absolutely rocked. And right on cue, the system announces the penalty is kicking in. See, Patella's was this green class baddie our guy hunted way back when, and its whole gimmick was, if you were scared of it, it powered up to basically impossible to beat mode. This ring was made from that monster's core, and its penalty is a game of chicken. First one to feel fear gets yeeted out of existence. Basically, whoever chickens out first gets a one-way ticket to the stratosphere. Our main character walks over to the students, asking if Hyun is alright, and the big dude says, he managed to stop the leaky red stuff. Our MC thinks, okay, he's still breathing, but we gotta move fast, he's lost a lot of that juice. Our protagonist asks for the radio, saying there's gotta be a control center somewhere, and they need to call the bigwigs. The professor fumbles around in his pocket for it, and the second he hands it over, our guy just snatches the radio without a second thought. He clicks on the radio and reports, "We've cleared the dungeon, but we've got some people down, and there was some kind of interference. The dungeon switched from purple to green, and the injured guy is in real bad shape." Then, he just drops some secret agent code out of nowhere. Our hero says he's on his way out and they need a rescue team, like, yesterday. Then he starts rattling off all of Hyun's details. But Jumin was over there thinking, how in the world does some E-rank nobody know about injury codes and the reporting system? So, he straight up asked Jun Woo what his deal was. I mean, the kid was supposed to be a total rookie, but our hero just gave him the silent treatment, which totally ticked the guy off, and he started screaming, "Hey, you got ears or what?" The second he was about to run his mouth again, bam! He caught a fist right in the kisser. And obviously, the one serving up that knuckle sandwich was our main man. The dude was literally tearing up while our protagonist was schooling him, saying a supervisor should know how to read a room, but the guy was still seeing red and wanted to argue. But that's when the big boss stepped in, laid down the law, and told the loudmouth that if one more word came out of his mouth, he was getting a one-way ticket to Brazil. After that, the professor went completely silent. Not another peep. A few minutes later, outside the dungeon, all the students were heading out. Our hero had this bummed-out look on his face while checking on his buddy's condition. Wishik asked if our guy was alright, then pointed out that his friend really lost his cool back there. And the MC just replied that because of that, nobody got the boot. The number 2 GOAT chimed in that pretty soon, everyone was gonna know his name, and he added that it wouldn't be long before Seokdo got the news too. At that point, our protagonist finally dropped the clueless act and revealed that a teacher from the school had tried to get him taken care of, and a 19-year-old kid ended up losing an arm, just like it was probably planned from the start. The MC asked his friend straight up, "Do you really think any of this is normal?" After seeing the look on our protagonist's face, Woo Shik started trembling in his boots. Our hero made it clear that if anything like this ever happened again, he was not just gonna let it slide. Then he turned and walked away. As he left, the MC dropped a bomb, saying his friend really wouldn't like seeing him back in his prime. A few hours later, that shameless teacher was sitting in Woo Sik's office, trying to spin a story. He claimed it was Cha who forced them to switch to a practical exam. The guy tried to explain that the test was just to deal with the inequality between the other classes. In Class E, swearing up and down that the whole thing had zero connection to a certain incident. The director shot back that even in a mess like this, Juman was still making excuses. Then he just yelled at him. "Are you gonna seriously pretend you didn't know the whole test was designed to kick our guy out of school?" That shameless teacher looked completely busted. He was thinking to himself that he never expected Woo Sik to be onto him. He wondered if there was someone even more powerful than Minister Mang Jin, but then just shrugged it off. He figured it was impossible since he didn't know anyone with that kind of juice. Trying to pull himself together, he insisted that there was nothing wrong with the test, and that nobody was forced to go on the mission. Just as he was about to cook up more nonsense, the GOAT cut him right off. He said the real issue was the sudden switch to a practical test, since you needed 60 stars to pass, and Junman knew perfectly well the special students had no shot. The whole thing was a setup. The guy argued that our MC wasn't some regular student, since he didn't even have to take the exam, and he still aced the whole thing. Then he tried to pass off the dungeon accident as a freak disaster known as dungeon interference, and for his big gotcha moment, he declared that the test had also been approved by Woo Sik himself. At that very moment, the GOAT was totally speechless because, whoops, he actually had approved it. Woo Sik basically gave up, saying he understood. He told the teacher to get the report together, since they were going to review the footage before figuring out what to do. With that, the slimy teacher started to leave the director's office, with a smug grin on his face, but he froze when Woo Sik told him he wanted to make one thing perfectly clear. He wasn't the least bit scared of Minister Munjin, because the only person he'd ever been afraid of in his entire life was the Jun Woo from 40 years ago. The guy asked what the heck the GOAT meant, and Woo Sik warned him that if this ever happened again, there would be absolutely nothing he could do to help Jumin. Hearing that, the teacher was standing outside the president's office, scared out of his mind. The shameless teacher let out a sigh. The very next moment, he was on the phone with the minister, assuring him that this whole thing wasn't going to leak. Mungjin basically said, "Hey, lucky for you, Zhongyan isn't dead, so we're not blaming Zhongjin. Besides, Xian An was never a real contender anyway, and since he's the one who got Professor Che canned, he should be kissing the ground that he's not in a full-body cast." The teacher started groveling, admitting he totally underestimated our hero's power level. The minister then cut in, asking, "So, does this kid actually have the chops or not?" Just as that spineless teacher was about to cook up a response, Munjin cut him off flat. "All right, let's cut the crap. As a member of the Parents Association, I'll get straight to it." He basically said, "The council seats are already locked in, right?" And then stared the guy down. Terrified, the weasel of a teacher immediately agreed. He sputtered that he thought the exact same thing, and the minister just went, "Perfect." Then he added, "Tell Cha he did a good job, no need to get all mopey." He even threw in a, "let's do lunch sometime." With that, the call ended, and the teacher let out a huge sigh, wondering how a high schooler could have so much pull. This kid wasn't just on another level for a student, he was stronger than pro hunters. But the teacher decided he couldn't let this golden opportunity go to waste. All he had to do was crush Jun Woo, no matter what it took. Meanwhile, somewhere else, someone tells our hero, "This is gonna sting a bit, but he's all cool, like he doesn't care." And the next second, our big tough guy is screaming bloody murder because a nurse is dabbing his arm with a cotton swab. The nurse was like, "It's done, you big baby, don't lie on it till it dries," and rattled off some other instructions. Our heroine just sighed. "My future husband, what a wimp. You'd never know he just took down a green rank boss." Our MC's brilliant reply was, "Oh, shut up." He tried to play it off, thinking, "Is it hurting this much because I haven't used my magic weapon in a while?" He muttered to himself that things were different now, then turned to her, "You're always just. Here, it's annoying." The girl shot back, "Help me out, and I'll disappear from your life forever." The MC just groaned. "Are you seriously still obsessed with getting on the council?" He was like, "How many times do I have to say no? Whether you get in or not means absolutely nothing to me." Then, out of the blue, a voice from across the room says, "Getting into the student council is anything but easy." Ayan jumped, "Oh, I heard they moved you into our hero's room." It was the third-ranked dude in the whole story. The MC just asked, "How you feeling, man?" The kid replied, "I'm all right, but man, these wounds are killing me." Our hero then asked, "So, did you hear that arrogant jerk just quit?" Hen nodded. "Yeah, heard it right after the practical exam." Our protagonist scoffed, You know, when someone saves your life, the least you can do is pop in and say thanks. But that coward just bolted. Hen shrugged. Doesn't matter, we made it out alive. Our hero gave him a look. Aren't you being a little too optimistic about this? I mean, your arm is literally gone. After that little truth bomb, the poor guy was dead silent. And honestly, that's the biggest waste of a cool character I've seen all year. Anyway, Gio said his dad always told him that as long as you're not completely knocked out of the fight, you can always come back from anything. He added, plus, they didn't send me to Brazil, so I figure everything's gonna work out. The MC thought to himself, at first, I was super suspicious of this guy, but he sacrificed his own arm to save a reckless fool. Even 40 years ago, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone like that. He thought, man, it's been forever since I heard that phrase, which totally soured the mood. Our heroine noticed and just asked, why? The new guy explained, it's tough to get into the council. I heard you wanted to join, Ayan, but it's probably going to be a nightmare for you. She asked, is it because I'm in Class E? But Gio just laughed. Nah, nothing like that. Have you two ever heard of the Parents Association? Hearing that, both of them froze. The girl said, the way you said that makes it sound less like a PTA and more like a secret society. He replied, you're pretty much on the money. There are 5 first-year members in the Parents Association, and those parents have exactly 5 kids. And the number of council members for our grade is also 5. He let that sink in. You guys getting the picture now? Our heroine's jaw was on the floor. He went on, spilling the tea that it was basically a cabal of big-shot parents who'd already called dibs on the council seats for their precious little darlings. So, Ayan, feeling super awkward, was like, is that how you got in? But the dude said nope, he only squeezed in after a backup spot magically opened up. Our boy asked, hold up, so if their chosen one doesn't get approved, they just, what, kick somebody else to the curb? When Hyun just gave him the silent treatment, the MC pressed on. So, what happened to the poor souls who got voted off the island during all this? Hearing this, our girl was shook. Like, wait, people actually get booted for this? And the guy's response was basically, do I really have to spell this out for you? Then, looking right at our heroine, he said it was kinda weird for a senior to be so clueless, and that maybe she should just pack it in and forget the whole council thing. But she was having none of it, firing back. So I should just roll over without even trying, all because some helicopter parents might get someone hurt? And turning to our main character, she asked if he didn't think this whole setup was a hot mess that needed to be fixed, like, yesterday. Our MC thought, yeah, this school-level corruption is definitely putting kids at risk, and normally he'd be all over it. But the whole Gigantina's return apocalypse was kinda taking priority. And he was like, look, I've said it before, I'll say it again, nothing else matters until I find Cha. And right on cue, the other guy goes, well, speak of the devil. And bam, you guys, our second heroine, or maybe the main heroine, the jury's still out, appears right behind him. Unsha started gliding toward our protagonist. Our dude was floored, thinking, I can't believe my problems are literally just walking right up to me. Then, out of nowhere, Jun Woo pops up with this huge, goofy grin. He went to greet his girlfriend, all like, hey babe, long time no see, only to get hit with the iciest cold shoulder of the century from the brunette. She walked straight past the poor guy, and right up to our other heroine. Yan was like, my dear sister already tried, like, a gazillion times to get me to drop out. So what's your brilliant plan now that I'm already enrolled here? But Ayan just gave her the death stare, no words needed. And folks, we have a full-blown waifu war erupting, while our two dudes just watch awkwardly. Our protagonist was thinking, I have no clue what their beef is, but judging by the vibes, it's some serious, 5-alarm fire-level drama. And he started wondering if this whole joining the council thing was just Ayan's master plan to one-up her sister or something. Our heroine was like, alright, this is pointless, I'm out. And when the MC tried to chime in, she shut him down flat, telling him he's got even bigger problems. For the first time in this whole showdown, Yoonji finally spoke up, asking if her sister got hurt. Ayan looked kinda shocked by that, and as she walked off, she shot back. A little late to start pretending you care now, isn't it? Trying to defuse the bomb, Hyun thanked his friend for showing up. Then he asked if our protagonist and Yoonshi already knew each other, and as they were locked in an epic staring contest, he added, yeah, I'm guessing the first impression wasn't great. Realizing he was about to be the world's most awkward third wheel, our guy decided to peace out, saying he had some, stuff to take care of. But then our MC announced he needed to talk to Unche, and the two of them started leaving together. You could just see Hyun's brain short-circuiting from the sheer weirdness. Out in the hospital hallway, Unche just straight up asked, alright, what's your deal with me? Our hero's mind was a buffering YouTube video. He totally didn't prep for this. He was flashing back to when they first met, wondering if he should just rip the band-aid off, but figured it might be smarter to try and butter her up first. His genius idea was to play the "I'm a fan" card, only to realize that was a one-way ticket to the friend zone. Then the girl said she'd heard the MC as part of that takedown during the practical exam. But when our hero tried to be humble, like, "Nah, that was all Hyun, I just watched," she cut him right off, saying his buddy couldn't have done that alone. Then, getting real serious, she told him that whole thing was a code red, Panic at the Disco situation. But somehow, a first-year student handled it, and that advice he gave earlier? Yeah, that definitely wasn't something a total noob would say. Our boy was about to pull another excuse out of his hat, but then just went, "Whoa there, someone's a little too sure of themselves." So, in what I can only describe as high-stakes flirting, Yoon-chae was like, "Are you seriously trying to poke the bear right now?" And Jun Woo, smooth as ever, goes, "Me? Never." He claimed he just wanted to know if they could, vibe. She, clearly trying to speedrun this conversation, was like, "So, are you trying to get on the student council or what?" She figured he was just schmoozing for connections, but then added, "Honestly, you don't even need to. Your resume is already stacked." Our main man tried to explain he had zero interest in their little high school musical government, but nope, she totally steamrolled him. She's all, "Hold up, one last thing," and boom, the fun and games O-meter drops to 0 as she tells him, "Whatever scheme you're cooking up to get on that council, you keep my sister's name out of it." Our hero, a master of timing, just goes, "Wow, you two are basically twins," which left Yoon-chae doing the confused puppy head tilt. He kept going, explaining that Ayan's the one with the political ambitions, while he couldn't care less about being on the student council, and he was only getting chummy with her because he had a bone to pick with Sakto, and then, for reasons that baffled science, out of freaking nowhere, she delivers a WWE-style elbow to his neck and redecorates the wall with his face. She's screaming, "Did my sister ask you for anything?" And when our boy tried to get a word in, she's like, "Answer me." She doubled down. Did Ayan ask for help with the council? Or for revenge? At this point, our hero's patience had officially left the building and he was ready to throw down. But psych, it wasn't that serious. He just gives her a little shove, which apparently she was not expecting at all. She shook it off real quick and tried to punt him into next week, but this time, he was really struggling to block her. He matrix dodged another hit, thinking, "Okay, dang, this girl's got moves." Then they had a classic stare down before going at it again. He's thinking, "This is a whole different ballgame from last time. We've officially leveled up. This is way above the pay grade for the dungeon management crew." But before he could even finish that thought, she was already coming at him again. As he's bobbing and weaving, he's like, "Man, I totally lowballed Yoon-chae. She's crazy fast," which made him wonder why she put on such a lame show out on the street when she's clearly a pro. And just then, as she lunged again, our boy sidestepped and looked like he was about to counter. But nope, it was a fake out. He just ripped a bandage off his arm and, completely out of left field, he yeets it right at her face. And it actually worked. She was so stunned he had enough time to grab her by the scruff of the neck. As he slammed her against the wall, she had the nerve to ask, "Hey, wasn't that move totally illegal?" Our protagonist just raised an eyebrow. "Are there even rules at this chaotic excuse for a school?" She's like, "Wow, for a special student you caught on quick." Okay, sidebar guys. Am I the only one seeing this? Or does this girl have the jawline of a linebacker? Anyway, back to the show. Our hero admits, "Okay, you're better than I thought." Then he asked what the deal was with that last takedown. She explained that the field is a whole different beast. It's not about how you win. It's about how good you look for the cameras. And judging by the vein popping in our hero's forehead, that answer did not sit well with him. So she's like, "Okay, what did you actually want to talk about?" And our guy says it's no big deal. He just needs a word with her grandpa. He just needed her to, casually sneak some weapons out of headquarters. Hearing this, she looked at him like he'd grown a second head, saying there was no way she could pull that off. Jun Woo's like, "I heard they're just decorations anyway. And since Seokdo is the big boss of the support house, he should be able to hook it up." Yoon-chae shot that down immediately, saying getting her grandpa to agree to anything is basically mission impossible, right as our main character was about to open his mouth again. And just like that, a woman pops up, yelling at our guy while he's still got a grip on the girl's shoulder. The nurse was basically like, "Hey, this isn't a fight club." Next thing you know, our leading lady smacks his hand away, and after their little tiff, she just pieces out. Our hero, smooth as ever, calls out, "Looking forward to seeing you again." But she fires back, "I'd rather stare at a wall for the rest of my life." So, like the true main character he is, he drops, "Well, that's gonna be awkward, since you're Suchi's granddaughter." A few minutes later, our guy is back in his room. Hyun's like, "So, how'd the chat with Cha go?" And the MC just says, It was a complete and total disaster. The kid just shrugs. Yeah, I saw that coming a mile away. Our hero then asks if she and her grandpa have beef, and Hyun looks at him like he grew a second head. He explained that it's not bad, but it's not exactly good, either. It's more like they're co-workers who pass each other in the hall. Hearing that, our protagonist was floored and asked, wait, so they don't do, like, family stuff? The kid confirmed, nope, not even a little. Hyun then asked what the MC even talked to her about, and our hero said he asked Cha to snag something for him, but she gave him a hard no. The kid was like, dude, of course she did. She's never asked her grandpa for anything, just looking at the old man as a horror movie. The MC asked what he meant by that. Hyun replied that he couldn't spill the tea right there, and then, laughing, said it was all the protagonist's fault anyway. I mean, making a request like that was just a terrible idea from the jump. Jun Woo then asked, should I just throw some cash at her? At that point, Hyun started wheezing. He managed to gasp out that there's only one thing that would ever get her attention, and our hero was all ears. The kid said that for the protagonist to get a favor from Cha, he'd have to convince Ayan to drop her bid for the council. He admitted he had no idea why, but he was 100% sure his friend was not happy that her sister was even at the academy. RMC figured that checked out, since during their brawl, the girl had gone on a little rant about it. Hyun said that if our hero could talk Ayan into bailing, they might actually get what they wanted. But Jung Woo quickly told Hyun to shut his trap. Why? Because somebody was creeping outside their door. A couple of hours later, somewhere else, our other heroine was sulking on a park bench. Surprise, surprise, she was the eavesdropper, and now she was replaying everything she'd overheard. She was mulling over the conversation between the protagonist and Hyun, thinking about how she'd done everything possible to become a council member, just to get her payback on Sikdo. But with her current skill set, she couldn't even get her foot in the door. Heck, she was worried she wouldn't even be able to graduate. That's exactly why she needed the MC's help, since he was some kind of freakishly strong first year. The guy was way more powerful than he had any right to be. If she had him in her corner, she could actually graduate. But now, she told herself, she had a 0% chance of getting help from our hero, but then she tried to convince herself it didn't matter. After all, it had always been this way, and this time she'd just have to pull herself up by her bootstraps again. Then, out of nowhere, someone shows up. And who was it? The protagonist, of course. He immediately opened with, "Why are you acting so pathetic?" Then he asked, "Aren't you going home? It's getting pretty late." The girl mumbled back that she was just leaving. The MC then said he had a question for her. "You thinking about giving up?" he asked. Hearing that, Ayan flinched. She shot back, "What makes you think I'd give up?" And he just replied, "I knew you were going to say that." The protagonist cracked a smile because, up to this point, he'd never seen this part of the story play out. Then he dropped a bomb. "I fought Cha." At this, our heroine looked absolutely stunned again. She asked what in the world he was talking about, and the MC just said, "Yep, we totally threw down." He went on, "And let me tell you, Cha is way stronger than I thought. That's why things got messy, since they obviously can't stand each other and ended up fighting again. Because of that," he said, "I'm changing my game plan. I'm done asking nicely. From now on, I'm just gonna threaten her." Hearing that, the girl's brain just about blue-screened. She was like, "Yep, you're exactly the psycho I figured you were, way too aggressive. Are you kidding me right now?" But our guy just shot back, "Nah, I'm just looking for her weak spot," and then mused, "Seriously, what kind of kryptonite could your perfect sister possibly have?" Pointing dramatically at our heroine, the MC dropped the bomb. Yun Che's biggest weakness is you, her own sister. He told her to listen up, because class was in session. He laid it all out. She's the council president, a top-tier hunter, and to top it all off, her grandpappy is the head honcho of the entire association. Then he hit her with the million-dollar question. "So why would someone with that much power give a flying flip about you? Because let's be real, you could train till you're blue in the face and never even touch her level. And there's a reason you're not at the Hunter Academy," he continued. "If you were, you'd cramp her style, or hey, maybe she's just terrified you'd steal her thunder." After hearing that, the girl did a full-on spit take with her juice. She sputtered that she knew her own skills, and what he was saying was just plain bonkers. But the MC just told her, "Well, your new job is to times it makes sense." Hearing this, our heroine looked so confused you could almost see the question marks floating over her head. Our hero then swooped in with an offer. "Don't worry, I'm gonna help you." That way, she could finally go toe-to-toe with Yun Che and find that chink in her perfect armor. Hearing this, our guy's future wife looked even more shell-shocked than before. He just casually asked if she was getting cold feet. That question snapped her right out of it, and you could see the gears turning about something we're not clued in on yet. Then, in the next moment, she screamed that she was gonna do it and totally leave her sister in the dust. Our hero just smirked, thinking, there we go, that's the spirit. He stood up from the bench and declared, alright, pep talk's over, we're on a tight schedule, starting tomorrow. The training montage from hell begins. The goal is to make you a council candidate before the second semester even kicks off. And just as she opened her mouth to ask something, he cut her off. Yep, that's the plan, because that whole parents association thing, or whatever they call themselves, it's gotta be dismantled. As he walked off, he tossed a "you got that" over his shoulder, but before he could make his cool guy exit, the girl called his name again. With tears just pouring down her face, she swore she'd never forget this and thanked him. Meanwhile, across town at a sushi restaurant, someone was asking if our number 3 dude, Gyoichi, was doing okay. Another person chimed in. Yeah, we were getting worried. He's gotten a little too big for his britches since getting into Class A. Someone else just laughed. Hey, it's a reason to celebrate. Jian's thrilled he passed. Then, right on cue, a new figure appeared at the entrance. And who should it be but the ridiculously shameless professor, putting on a big act and apologizing for being late. Everyone immediately recognized him. One parent piped up, Professor, we heard there was a little accident during the exam. You're all right, aren't you? The man just waved it off like it was nothing. Turns out, this whole get-together was for the first-year Parents Association, and Junman announced it was time to get down to the real business. They had to get ready for the admissions period since the semester was wrapping up. That's why they were going to start by going over some paperwork. After giving the papers a quick scan, he passed them over to Taegang's father, a guy named Jong Hoon. He kept passing out stacks of papers to a bunch of other industry bigwigs until he got to the very last person, Ju-Sok's dad, Minister Mingjin, who's been a massive pain in the butt since this whole story started. The professor told them all to take their sweet time signing the forms. Then he asked if they had any questions. Jung's hand shot up, saying he had a question about the practical exam from a few days ago. Yeah, he said. I heard some wonder kid cleared the whole thing solo. Any chance that kid's gonna try and make a run for the council? You could hear a pin drop in the room. The shameless professor just laughed it off, saying our hero had shown zero interest and that there was no way their kids wouldn't get in. So, he told them all to just chill out. He even added, to be perfectly honest, it's super unlikely our big guy would even bother applying. Hearing this, the minister chimes in, like, hold up, I've got a question. He basically asks the professor if he has a plan B for this whole mess. You know, just in case his big theory totally bombs. Jamin's like, duh, of course. He tells them not to sweat it, promising he'll pull out all the stops to make sure their little scheme goes off without a hitch. Then, with this sly grin, he practically guarantees that every single one of their precious little darlings will snag a spot on the student council. So, the next day at Hunter Academy, our guy is just trying to stroll into his classroom, and bam, someone yells, he's finally here. Suddenly, a whole mob of students swarms our main man, hitting him with a non-stop barrage of questions. Our hero is, like, totally drowning in the chaos. As they keep pestering him about how he conquered the dungeon, our dude's just standing there thinking, how did my life turn into this crazy mess? Turns out, the culprit was a giant poster plastered on the wall, screaming that he'd snagged the #1 spot on the test. His brain just went, this is completely bonkers. These kids just would not shut up, drilling him with a million questions for what felt like an eternity. Finally, our guy just flares his aura and basically tells everyone to scram. And since he had no clue who any of these people were, it finally dawned on the background characters that this wasn't the same old Jun Woo they were used to. A second later, our hero starts making a break for his seat when our leading lady catches his eye. He walks over and tells her he was totally blindsided by the professor, giving him a perfect score. She just replies that they don't fudge the numbers, which is why they posted the real deal for everyone to see. Our hero's thinking, well, at least the grading system isn't rigged. Then he asks our heroine if she's been keeping up with the training routine he gave her. She's like, yep. Then asks how much longer she has to suffer through this physical training. The MC just deadpans that it doesn't matter how fancy her weapons are, because if she's not strong enough to use them, they're just expensive paperweights. The girl's like, okay, I get it, but still, he needs to get ready because finals are just around the corner. Our guy immediately asks, another dungeon dive? But Ayan shoots that down, saying it's a boring old written test and a sparring match. And our hero's just thinking, man, this school's exams are weird. Why are we beating each other up? But then he's like, actually, you know what? This is way better. Since she only has to take down one person, she asks who the lucky victim is. The protagonist just smirks and says it's super obvious. All she has to do is wipe the floor with Yusok, because he's a shoo-in for the council, thanks to his dear old dad being the minister. And after that whole mess he stirred up with the kid, the professor actually tried to flunk him, adding that this level of drama isn't possible without the all-powerful Parents Association pulling the strings. Then he points out how their times, supposedly times told the council members are picked based on exam scores. He figures there's a solid chance the guy won't even make it past the first round. So as long as she can school him, she'll breeze through the first phase. No sweat. Hearing the plan, the girl gets all pensive again. The protagonist is like, "What, you don't think you can do it?" And she just meekly says she'll try. The MC just stares at her. Try? Is that all you're gonna do? She quickly backpedals and says she'll make it happen. Now that's what I'm talking about, he says, because starting tomorrow, we're starting martial arts training. And hey, if you've got time, you can even bring some friends along. But the second he says that, the girl's face just completely changes, and she just flat out says she doesn't have any friends. Hearing this, our guy just gives her this look of pure, undiluted pity. Our girl immediately fires back. "Why are you looking at me like that? It's not like you have any friends either." The MC is like, "Whoa, where did you get that idea?" He proudly declares that Wishik is his friend, and then crickets. He's desperately racking his brain for other names but comes up with a big fat zero. Then, out of nowhere, he gets this fuzzy memory of someone saying something to him, but the details are totally gone. As soon as that thought pops into his head, our hero just completely clams up. Ayan, with a look of total boredom, asks him what's wrong and if there's, like, a problem or something. Jun Woo was all like, "Nah, it's nothing, just spacing out." Meanwhile, back at the hospital, our boy Hyun was basically dying of boredom. But hey, having his classmates around wasn't the worst thing ever, and he figured he'd just chill with some YouTube as he reached for his phone. But then he did a double take, his arm was gone. And once that little fact sunk in, his face just crumpled. A second later, someone burst in yelling, "Gio, my son!" The moment that guy showed up, the kid's whole vibe changed. He was like, "Dad, aren't you supposed to be at work?" And the man just grinned. "Nah, I sweet-talked the boss and got the day off." He asked if his son was feeling any better, and the boy mumbled that the pain was gone. The dad was like, "Hey, I lost an arm during a monster hunt myself, you know. But I never ditched my dream, and look at me now, I became an even more legendary hunter. As long as you keep grinding, that left arm of yours will get crazy strong. You'll see." Then, pulling something from his shirt, the man said, "And check this out. I found something." He was all hyped up, claiming he had proof the Parents Association was behind that whole mess from 2 years ago. The son just sighed. "Dad, are you still on about that?" His father then asked if the test was a setup that went sideways. Hearing that, Hyun clammed up, and just as his dad was about to say more, the kid totally snapped and yelled at him. He screamed that he needed to drop it already, because digging into that case got him fired and cost them literally everything they owned. He just kept yelling, "After all this time, what are you even trying to accomplish?" Yikes. Folks, I think our boy Hyun might have gone a little too far this time. His dad was just speechless. The kid told his father he should just accept that no matter what he does, he's never going to beat the Parents Association, and he's definitely never going to be a hunter again. And when the man tried to speak again, Hyun just shut him down, saying he was sick of hearing stories about his grandpa. Nobody's going to believe some tall tale that happened 40 years ago. And wait a minute, guys. Could our main character be Hyun's grandpa? Probably not, but you never know. After the boy stormed out, his father just sat on the bed, totally lost. Meanwhile, somewhere else, our hero was asking his minions if they dug up any dirt. The chubby one reported, "Boss, classes C and D are squeaky clean, nothing weird going on." Hearing that, our guy asked about the other classes. The boys said it felt kinda awkward snooping on the kids from classes A and B. The MC was thinking, "Man, I'm trying to find future council members, and this is the best crew I've got? We're doomed." Our boy told them they did a good job, and that it was time for their reward. Seeing him pull out his wallet, the guys were like, "Oh no, you don't have to do that." The protagonist shot them a look and said, "Listen, when a grown-up offers you cash, you just take it and say thank you. Got it?" Handing them the money, our hero said, "Just take it before I get annoyed." The chubby one looked at the bill and said, This is only 1,001 won." The MC just patted his shoulder. "Don't be shy, that's enough to buy. Like a piece of candy or something." As they walked off, they grumbled that the money couldn't buy them jack squat, while our protagonist muttered to himself, "Man, they really are the perfect flunkies." Seeing those kids reminded him of the good old days, when even 1,001 won made him feel like the richest guy on the planet. But he snapped out of it because he had to focus on the real mission, training Yan to absolutely demolish Jusuk. As for the written test, all he could do was cross his fingers and hope she actually studied, since the beatdown was the only part that really mattered. Jusak's skills were a joke, but they still had to be ready for whatever dirty tricks the association pulled. The only issue was finding a decent place to train Yan, since asking Wu Shik for a favor would put a giant spotlight on them. Then, out of the blue, someone called his name. It was our third favorite character of all time, who was super stoked to see his buddy. The MC asked him, "Hey, is Yan already out of the hospital?" The guy shook his head. "Nah, I'm just on campus to deal with some boring paperwork at the main office." He then added, "So, I heard you're going to be Yan's personal trainer." He leaned in and asked how the master plan was coming along. After our hero gave him the full rundown, the friend nodded, saying he totally got it. He pointed out, "You know, if Class E wants to use the academy facilities, they've got a ton of hoops to jump through," and our protagonist groaned, "Yeah, that's exactly what I was afraid of." So Hyun's like, "Dude, you're seriously going to take on the entire association?" And our hero's just like, yeah, duh." Our guy's like, "Why the sudden 20 questions?" And Hyun gets all serious, saying it's basically a suicide mission. But the MC just cracks up, all like, "Bro, we've pulled off crazier stuff. We'll figure it out, we always do." And Hyun's got to admit, he's got a point. They did somehow survive that disaster of a dungeon, and he starts having flashbacks to all the chaos, like the whole place caving in, and that one time he literally jumped in front of Mr. Arrogant to save his butt. Man, remembering all that really brought back the feels. Then he gets all emo and is like, "I wonder what would have happened if you were in that accident 2 years ago." Our hero's completely thrown by that, but Hyun just brushes it off like, "Never mind," and pivots to, "Hey, I can hook you up with a sweet training spot," cause, he can get him into the student council's exclusive gym. Meanwhile, over in the council office, the super shady professor is like, "Look, I'm gonna level with you," and staring down at this kid, he drops a bomb. "Jusuk, my dude, you're the one on the chopping block right now. The kid's totally lost, like, say what now, professor?" And Juman's like, "This new hotshot MC? Yeah, he's probably gunning for a spot on the council." The side character's jaw just hits the floor, and to crank up the drama, the professor lays it on thick, saying our boy passed without even taking the test. But wait, there's more. The dude took down a green rank monster all by himself. I saw it with my own 2 eyes, no cap. After hearing that little tidbit, our little side character is practically vibrating with fear. He's stammering that his spot is safe because his daddy pulled some strings. The professor just scoffs, telling him there's only so much nepotism the school will tolerate. Juman just keeps hitting him with one truth bomb after another, while the kid is whining. "You just gotta stop him." The professor's like, "Look, Jusuk, you absolutely cannot afford to flunk." The kid's having a flashback to when this same guy promised to get him on the council. Juman then tells him not to lose hope, cause he's got the cheat sheet for the test. "Just memorize this, don't get caught, and focus on the big fight, okay?" And then he remembers how our hero absolutely mopped the floor with him, and he whines, "I don't think I can win." But of course, the shady professor has a plan B. He dramatically reaches into his pocket and whips out, wait for it, another bracelet, just like the one Jusuk already used to get his butt kicked by our hero. Juman explains this one's an off-the-books, unregistered B-rank bracelet. The moment the kid lays eyes on it, his eyes go wide. He's like, "Dude, everyone in this school is basically D-rank," and you can see the light bulb go on as he realizes how OP this thing is. The sleazy professor points out that the real pro hunters start at B rank, so he should totally use it. Then, with this greasy smirk on his face, the slimeball says it's basically a real-life cheat code. The kid starts laughing, asking where the heck he got it, and the professor's just like, "Oh, from my dad." The kid's like, "Wait, wasn't your dad on the subjugation team?" Juman gets all dodgy, like, "That was ages ago," and quickly changes the subject, saying he called in a senior to help the kid get the hang of his new toy. And right on cue, someone shows up at the door, and I'm betting all my money it's Inchad. "Yep, called it." The kid sees who it is and he's totally floored, sputtering about how this is impossible. And that's because, surprise surprise, it's actually our second heroine. The kid's freaking out, saying it's amazing, and with her coaching, he's basically guaranteed to win. The professor tells him to do every single thing she says, because he had to pull some major strings, and he can't believe she actually agreed. He figures she must really not like our MC. Then he gets all creepy, puts a hand on her shoulder, and tells them to get started on the training plan. Some guy with zero shame told her to look after his little protege, and she was all like, "You got it, boss." Meanwhile, back at the academy, our hero was dishing out some friendly advice, which basically meant he was wiping the floor with our girl. Getting absolutely pummeled, she finally yelled for a timeout, gasping that she couldn't hang, and reminding him, "Dude, this is supposed to be practice." Then she was like, "Are you maybe going a little too hard on me?" But our hero just said they had to train for real, so Ayan shot back. Alright, if we're going all out, then you better teach me how to use my powers. 'Cause everyone else is throwing magic around and I'm over here with just my fists. John let out this massive sigh and said, Look, it's easier to show you than tell you. Then told her to ditch the gloves and hit him with her best superpower shot. She just stared at him, totally baffled, but he was like, Pretend this is a real fight. Seriously, try to take me out. Then he smirked. You really think you can drop me with just one little punch? Ayan looked at him like he'd lost his mind. She was like, I'm not gonna blast an unarmed guy. But Jun Woo just shut her down with, keep whining and this lesson is over. So, what does she do? She hits her bracelet, a robot voice goes, ranked abilities approved, and poof, flame on. She yelled, Don't come crying to me if you get toasted, and then charged at him with fireballs for hands. She launched a massive fireball right at him, and he just sidestepped it like it was nothing. Blink, and suddenly he was right in her face. Our guy grabbed her arms, gave her a little love tap to the ribs, and sent her sailing across the ring. She bounced off the ropes like a pinball, and he just goes, Get up, let's go again. And what do you know? She powers up her fire hands one more time. This time she pulled out her rank 2 skill, and came charging in again, dead set on actually hitting him for once. He noticed she switched to close-range fighting, and, while dodging, thought, hey, not bad. Then he apparently decided dodging was boring and just planted a fist right in her gut. Down goes Ayan again. Then he starts his lecture. Now, you're probably wondering why you can't even touch me, even with your fancy long-range powers. He explained that the reason is that a special ability has to flow with your body, but all you're doing is thinking about which flashy move to use next. Ayan looked totally lost and asked, Wait, isn't that how you're supposed to do it? And he's like, Nope, that just leaves you wide open. Stop thinking about using the power, and start thinking about how to attack, he said. She just blinked and was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. He just grinned and said, Well, if you don't get it, I guess we'll have to learn by doing. And then he swung at her again. So he keeps schooling her on how to block and counter, explaining that the second you see an opening, that's when you unleash your full power. Meanwhile, he's thinking to himself, Man, I really thought she would have quit by now. She's got guts though, he thought. Wonder how much more she can take. And right then it was like a light bulb went off over her head. And for the first time all day, she actually dodged one of his attacks. She was already winding up a counter kick, and boy did she let it fly. She nailed him with a massive kick right to the gut. Even our big shot hero stumbled and almost ate the canvas. Feeling herself, she powered up a rank 3 skill and rushed him again. But then, for some weird reason, our guy leaped into the air, and they were suddenly frozen, face to face, locked in a dramatic stare down. This totally threw her off her game, and in that exact moment of confusion, he booped her on the chin. Her eyes went all swirly, and just like that, it was nap time. The MC laid it out. In a real throwdown, you gotta look for weak spots, and if it's just about who's got the fancier moves or shinier weapon, she's never gonna land a hit with her charge straight-ahead game plan. He was like, see? You get why the basics matter now, right? But deep down he was thinking, man, she really wants to send me to the Shadow Realm, 'cause she just threw a bow completely on instinct without a single thought. Our girl pipes up saying she's still super sketched out about who the protagonist actually is. He's like, where's this coming from? And she points out that it just doesn't add up, since they're the same age. Staring our hero down, she started to say something, then just stopped. And let me tell you, that little pause had even our main man sweating bullets, freaking out that she'd somehow sniffed out his whole reborn into another life secret. Instead, she blurts out, Is my future husband some kind of secret agent they've been training since he was a kid? To which the MC just told her to quit with the crazy talk. Just then, Heen strolls into the academy, all like, whoa, didn't peg you guys for the early bird type. The protagonist and our leading lady both said hey to Ken, and he asked how they were holding up, since it had been a hot minute since they'd used the academy. The girl just goes, I'm good, which was apparently all he needed to hear. He mentioned that he always used to spar with his dad in the ring, even though he got his butt handed to him most of the time. Our hero then asks him what the game plan is from here on out, and Heen's totally caught off guard, like, why the sudden deep talk, dude? He explained that even though he bounced from the council, he's still gotta graduate, and that's been weighing on his mind a lot lately. His entire life, the goal was become a hunter, but that dream's pretty much toast now, seeing as he's, missing a pretty crucial body part. Hearing that, the protagonist clammed up, hit with a wave of guilt since he was right there in that dungeon too. Then, a moment later, he goes, actually, it's not totally impossible. Heen's like, what are you even talking about? And our hero clarifies, that it's not impossible for his buddy to become a hunter. He could totally still pull it off, even minus one arm. The guy just sighs, saying he knows the MC is trying to be a good friend, but he really shouldn't just toss around comments like that. But the protagonist fires back. I'm not just saying it, man. I'm speaking from experience. He'd heard about this one hunter who lost his entire right arm during a raid, but the dude didn't quit. Nope, he just kept grinding, and somehow ended up even more of a beast than he was times before, times he lost the arm. And he had this one famous catchphrase. Before the MC could even finish the story, Heen cut in, "As long as you're breathing, you can always figure it out." The protagonist was like, "That's the one." When the kid was about to ask for the legend's name, our protagonist smoothly says his name was Chung, and then quickly added that he, passed away a super long time ago, which is totally why his friend has never heard of him. But right after he says that, Heen drops a bomb. Chung Hoon was my grandfather. And yeah, even our supposedly all-knowing main character was absolutely floored by that cosmic-level coincidence. Fast forward a few hours, over at the Academy's training grounds, where a massive explosion just went off. The culprit? None other than Jusok, breaking in his shiny new bracelet. That little punk was muttering about how the protagonist better just watch his back for what's coming. Then a voice cuts in. "We get it, you're pumped about your new toy, but you need to take a chill pill." And that voice belonged to our second heroine, reminding him that the fight is only the second test, and while she knows Jusok has a major hate-on for the MC, he'd better be careful not to go too hard, or he'll get his butt disqualified. Also, he's banned from using that one secret move we haven't even seen yet. The little brat scoffed that he wouldn't even need times move for a scrub like our hero. Meanwhile, the totally not shady professor was thinking to himself that the kid was a natural with his powers, and asking for the heroine's help was probably the smartest move he'd ever made. With a nasty little smirk, he mused that this was it, the end of the MC's little reign of terror. But then, for a split second, he remembered Woo Shek's warning, that the only person he ever truly feared was Jun Woo from way back, like 40 years ago. But Jun Woo just kept on strutting, not a care in the world, and he just brushed it off, saying that's just some old geezer's ramblings, a guy who's still stuck living in his glory days from decades ago. So, our guy rolls up to the subjugation exam HQ and asks, "Yo, is Chung Hoon around?" And some dude just stares, totally flabbergasted. He's looking at our hero like, "Boss, what are you even doing here this late?" And our MC just goes, "The dungeons are taking a breather, so I figured, why not grab a drink?" Woo Shek chimes in, "Yeah, and we brought Hoon's favorite poison. You know, Chung Hoon, the big cheese of Team 2. And honestly, one of the most skilled guys our MC totally looked up to. So he asks, where's the rest of Hoon's crew? And the guy's like, they just popped out, be back in a jiffy. Our MC is all, cool, we can wait, but Chung's having none of it, insisting, wait, for what? Let's get this party started. Our hero just thinks to himself, man, this guy's only weakness is the bottle. It's crazy, it's been 5 years since they met, and bam, best buds before they knew it. The three of them, him, Wishik, and Hoon, had become a seriously tight-knit crew. In the middle of a drink, our guy asks his pal, you swamped with work? And the man admits, you have no idea. But hey, it's not gonna kill me. Which is a heck of a thing to say, considering just 8 months ago he had a nasty accident and lost his entire right arm. He told his buddy, dude, don't make it weird. Stuff happens, you know? But our hero was totally speechless. Like, what do you even say to that? All he could think was, what a total bummer. This guy was one of the most gifted dudes he'd ever met. Then Chung just casually asks the MC, hey, you know any good one-arm sword tricks? Think you could teach a guy? And after hearing that, Junho's like, is that really gonna be enough? But the guy just fires back. It's way too early to throw in the towel. As long as I'm kicking. I can make anything happen if I just don't quit. And from that moment on, Hoon's recovery kicked into high gear, and the real training montage began. Swinging a sword with his left hand was a nightmare at first, since he'd been a righty his whole life, but in the end, he totally nailed it. He proved every single doubter wrong, and his sword skills got even more ridiculously good than before he lost the arm. The dude was basically a flawless sword-wielding machine. The guy says, man, that training was brutal, but our hero just shoots back. Don't even start with that. You're the one who begged me for help in the first place. But just then, our protagonist gets completely blindsided, and he just has to ask, are you seriously still using times that thing asterisk? Hoon's like, duh. It's a symbol of all my blood, sweat, and tears. Plus, I'm gonna pass it down to Dong someday. The so-called yeeting blade was just the wooden practice sword Hoon used. Totally useless in a real fight, but absolutely perfect for getting your butt kicked in training. Wishik points out, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Dong have, like, zero interest in being a hunter? Why give him the sword? Hoon just shrugs. Fine, if he doesn't want it, I'll just give it to my grandson. And the protagonist is like, well, you better plan on living a long, long time then, if you ever want to meet that grandson. Wishik gets all nervous. Dude, isn't that like bad juju to say stuff like that? And Hoon agrees. Yeah, you're right. That's a classic rookie mistake. He then asks, haven't you guys ever seen a movie? In the next moment, they clink their glasses together and our hero makes a toast to getting ourselves knocked out of this thing as fast as humanly possible. Meanwhile, outside the cabin, Jun Woo is asking if Dong got any boo-boos while he was playing. Hoon just cracks up, saying, I was worried it was something major. But he was totally blown away when he heard what his son said. With this huge grin, he tells them, my son told me, as long as I'm alive, I'll find a way to make anything work. And of course, in the end, our hero and Wishik were trapped, listening to their buddy gush about his kid all night long. Cut 2, outside the academy, and someone's muttering, man, where did I put that photo? It was Heenan, and he's showing a picture to our main couple. The second our hero sees it, he feels a laugh bubbling up, because the leader of the Zone 2 camp was a guy who lived for booze and good conversation, and also happened to be the swordsman who got terrifyingly close to perfection in his lifetime. His name was Kim Chang-hoon, and our hero suddenly remembered that he'd once told that very same friend to live a good, long life, just so he could see his grandkids, and remembering that just crushed him, like he was thinking, man, I really should have kept my big mouth shut. Our girl asked if Han's grandpa had, checked out a long time ago. The kid nodded, saying he heard his grandpa got taken off the board in some accident. That got our hero's gears turning, and the kid was like, dude, you good? Our protagonist just brushed it off with a classic, it's nothing. Ken was like, whoa, I'm kind of floored. How in the world do you know the story about my grandpa? He went on, I mean, let's be real. It's pretty hard to believe someone could become the top swordsman after losing their right arm. Our main character shot back, oh, I'm positive it's possible, and the boy said, man, if you talk to my dad, you two would totally hit it off. Our hero then realized he had no clue how Dong was doing, so he asked, hey, is your dad alright? Ken said, yeah, he's fine, and then spilled the beans. I've been trying to get him to drop this one case he's completely obsessed with, but the guy just won't let it go. Our hero was totally lost and asked, wait, what case are we even talking about? The kid was like, it's got nothing to do with you, Jun Woo, but then added, but remember a few days back, you asked, if anyone got removed from the game during the student council election? Well, yeah, people definitely got removed. Hearing that, our duo looked at each other, totally stunned. It sounded way too much like that accident a few days before the exam, when the test got switched up, and 2 people got turned into human pancakes by some rocks. The MC asked, is Dong looking into that? And the kid was like, you nailed it, and that's the exact reason he got fired. It was like watching one cop try to take over the entire Parents Association mafia, so you can guess how that turned out. Our girl was completely shocked to hear all this. After that, he still got on the council, and because of it, he basically got treated like dirt. Unche was the only one who'd give him the time of day. Our MC then asked, was the association's golden boy involved in that accident too? And Han said, nah, the association is super exclusive with only 4 members, and their nominees didn't have to take the exam with us common folk. And he still kicks himself over it sometimes, always playing the what-if game. Like, what if I'd just been a little faster? Our heroine then asked, is that why you saved that arrogant punk the other day? Han admitted, honestly, there are times I seriously regret doing that, and in the end, my whole dream of being a hunter went up in smoke. But even with all that, when I think about someone getting permanently logged out, it was right in front of my eyes, I'm actually glad I was the one who took the fall instead. Our hero couldn't help but crack a smile at that answer, but a second later his eyes went wide. He bent down, picked something shiny up and thought, no way, is this the guillotine blade? Han confirmed, that's the only thing left from Dawn. My dad's held on to it for years. Our hero's mind flashed back to what his friend once said, about how he was going to pass that exact sword down to his own grandkids. So, he asked Han, hey, think I could borrow this? The kid was cool with it, but was like, why? Our MC smirked. You said your grandpa's story was impossible, right? And the boy shot back. Dude, old family legends are always over the top. But our protagonist just said, this one isn't exaggerated at all, then asked, so, you want to come watch the next exam? A few days later, it was time for the written test. It was day 1 of the 4-day final exam nightmare. Inside a classroom, students were scribbling away, and our hero was right there with them, thinking, I don't understand a single word of this. He'd literally never been to a class, so expecting him to pass a math test was a joke. I mean, the guy spent his entire life fighting monsters. He glanced to his side and saw Jusak. Our protagonist thought, wow, that side character looks super into it, but he obviously didn't study. He probably just got the answer key and memorized it. If this keeps up, it's going to cause some major problems for Go Ayan. Our girl was clearly not having a good time with this exam, judging by the freaky look on her face. Our hero was peeking over, probably wondering if she needed an exorcist. I mean, she looked like she was about to hurl. Jun Woo was thinking, wait a minute. Isn't this the girl who always snags first place on the written tests? So, he figured he had no choice but to trust her. But then, whop! Somebody nailed him in the back of the head with a paper ball. The culprit? A teacher, of course. He told our boy to keep his eyes on his own paper. Feeling like a total dork, our hero promised he'd pay attention. A few mind-numbing days crawl by, and we're on day 4 of the exam-pocalypse. An announcement crackles to life, telling students to listen up, because the final first-year exam, the combat test, was about to begin. All first years were ordered to report to the main auditorium. Our hero was like, finally, let's get this party started. Glancing at his future wife, he told her they'd better hustle so they weren't late. She was all for it. Cut 2. Inside the main gym, our hero, Captain Obvious, points out that it's super crowded, while our heroine is yelling at him to wait up. But then, his face just goes blank with shock. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why he's so shook, since the comic panel shows absolutely nothing. Just a ton of people watching the arena and whispering, and I couldn't understand a single word they were saying. There were even some news reporters there, getting ready to film the teenage beatdown. Our main character asked if the exams were always this much of a circus. Ayan explained that this was the big finale for the semester, and most of the kids who rank high usually get to be on the student council. With a totally deadpan face, Jun Woo figured that since they televise actual monster fights, watching a bunch of superpowered students punch each other was basically just cheap entertainment. Then, someone announced the exam was starting. Our MC was thinking to himself how gross the adults were, cashing in on a bunch of kids fighting. The announcer piped up that President Wishik would be explaining the rules. Then some guy called the Gilbert said he'd explain the rules, for all the students who studied and trained their little hearts out. The first round, 2 students are picked at random, they fight, and the winner moves on. With a sarcastic little smirk, our MC thought, wow, these are the exact same rules from our old practice brawls. Pretty much, the fight keeps going until one of the kids either gives up or gets totally flattened. The winner snags 1 point, while the loser gets a big fat 0, a nice little participation trophy. If you're sitting at 0 points, you can try again as many times as you want. But if you have at least 1 point and you lose, you're done. No second chances. Wishik explained that their fancy protective gear would soak up most of the hits, but it wouldn't completely save them from getting their bells rung. He warned the students not to get all hopped up and go crazy with their powers. And just like that, the test for Class A was on. The GOAT wished everyone good luck, and then they started drawing names for the fights. The first 2 chosen were a couple of random nobodies. I'm pretty sure these characters will never be seen again, so I'm not even bothering with their names. The announcers told the 2 lucky winners to step into the arena and get ready. The ref told them to go to their starting spots. Then he yelled that they could start. The red-headed kid was the first one to charge in like a maniac. Our heroine was totally floored by what she was seeing. She muttered that it was incredible. She was all, so times is how Class A students fight. Turning to her future husband, she asked him what he thought of the match. But in the next second, she was horrified because our boy was dead asleep. The girl was like, why are you sleeping? Class A is fighting. Our MC just said the fight was a sloppy mess and not worth watching. Plus, he hadn't been sleeping well for the last few days. Thanks to all the exam prep, he figured this was the perfect opportunity to catch some Z's. Ayan couldn't believe it, asking if he was serious after seeing what Class A could do. Right then, she had to wonder what our boy's standards were, because he said that with 0 hesitation. And yep, I called it, those 2 nobodies were never seen again. A few hours later, the announcer declared Class D's beatdowns were done, and Ayan had to poke our hero awake. With a big stretch, he asked if it was finally over. The girl was like, yup, and now it's our turn. The announcer then boomed that the fights for Class E were about to kick off, so all the students should get ready. And right then, get ready apparently meant get lunch, because everyone bolted for the cafeteria. And I'm not kidding, the arena went from packed to a ghost town in a flash. Our main character then asks if their class was, like, asterisk that times lame. So bad that nobody wanted to watch them, and the girl just shot back that he was the last person on Earth who could talk. since he snoozed through everyone else's matches. But then, in a shocking turn of events, the girl's jaw dropped, and the reason for this sudden gasp was because Han was actually watching the upcoming rounds. The guy gave our hero a nod, and our protagonist nodded right back. The announcer kept on announcing. He said they were about to introduce the first contender from Class E, and our hero's big brain strategy was to conserve his energy. He figured picking some average Joe would just be more efficient. The first matchup for our hero's class was our girl against some background character named Jihai, and seeing that, Jun Woo freaked out, saying this was not good at all, since their brilliant plan was already off the rails. But the girl just said she'd handle it. Our heroine gave herself a little pep talk to just remember her training and do what she learned. Then our hero chimes in, saying he wanted 10 straight wins, and not a single one less. Hearing this, Ayan looked completely lost. So, the protagonist explained that their class had 20 people. So, logically, she should just try to win exactly 10 matches in a row. With a grin, our heroine thought to herself, "You got it, boss." The referee told both fighters to take their places. A second later, the guy yelled for the match to start. The system pinged that ranked abilities were a go, and out of nowhere, our heroine just clocked the other girl right in the face. Naturally, she went down for the count, and the announcer screamed that Jihai was on the floor. After that, every single background character looked absolutely floored. The next thing you know, the ref declared our heroine the winner of the first round, and even Hyun looked like he'd just seen a ghost. The background characters all started whispering amongst themselves while our protagonist watched with a super proud look. But then, for some weird reason, he started to wonder if maybe that was a little bit of an overkill. The other guys were all asking if Ayan really just knocked someone out cold, without even using an ability. Then, in round 2, she did it again. In round 3, it was the exact same story. She just wiped the floor with another background character without breaking a sweat. The announcer declared that our heroine was advancing to the 4th round, with 3 wins in a row, and a bunch of randos were questioning if she was actually from the so-called trash class. One of them even commented that it was seriously impressive for her to get that strong in just 1 month. And looking over at someone, he said she probably had the same kind of talent as her sidekick. That someone was Go Yun Chae, who was staring intently at our heroine. He went on, saying this was a test nobody gave a crap about, since it was just for first years in Class E, then asked if she was only there because Ayan was fighting, or was it because of Jusuk? She shot back, asking what that had to do with anything, and questioned if her friend wasn't supposed to be helping Jun Woo and Yoon. Yoon replied that he couldn't do everything by himself, and one of his juniors had promised to show him something interesting, and that's the only reason he showed up. Hearing that, Nuanchi was totally lost since she had no clue what he was talking about. The announcer piped up again. He called for anyone who wanted to fight in the next round to step on up. Unsurprisingly, none of the background characters wanted to set foot in that arena. So, the announcer said that if there were no more challengers from Class E, the fights were over, and in the very next moment, and look who shoots a hand up. It's Jusuk, of course. The instructor's just like, "Alright, get in there, champ. Time to rumble." Seeing this, our boy is floored, thinking, dude saw what Ayan can do and isn't even sweating? He's gotta have an ace up his sleeve. A few nail-biting minutes later, the ref is all, "Okay kids, to your corners, let's get this show on the road." Our girl's thinking, finally, my turn to smack down Jusuk, pretty sure he's just a glorified sniper. Then the ref yells, "Go time." Ayan doesn't waste a second and just blitzes him, and some random dude in the crowd is thinking she's going all out. But Jusuk just grins like he's not even worried. And then kaboom! An explosion rocks the whole arena. The entire student body just collectively loses their minds like, what in the world just happened? Even our main man is shook, because he totally recognizes that move. Han whips his head around to Anche, basically asking, what kind of secret sauce did you give this kid? That background character, looking way too proud of himself, asks if her little safety pads managed to save her from that one. But then he adds that it doesn't matter anyway since her stamina is garbage. Our heroine is thinking, that's not his usual bling. Where'd you get that cheat code, buddy? Jusuk's all like, oh, you know, when your parents are a big deal, people just throw free power-ups at you. And our heroine just has to ask if he's actually proud of that. He's like, heck yeah, it's something a nobody like you could never get. Oh, he did times, not times, just say that. Ayan is officially ticked off. He pokes the bear, asking if she's mad because he brought up her not having parents, and she has to tell herself, don't get angry, and fall for his dumb little tricks. Then she remembers our hero's advice. The first part of any fight is figuring out your opponent. Time to put on her detective hat. She's trying to figure out what class this new toy of his is, concluding its rank has to be way higher than hers as she fires up her own magic. She tells herself, well, only one way to find out, and yeets a fireball at Jusok, muttering that she's just gotta keep swinging. The little punk just laughs his head off. You seriously think your little D-rank party tricks are gonna do anything? Our girl's brain is going a mile a minute. Okay, magic spells take about the same time to cast, so I'll just stay back and pepper him from a distance. Famous last thoughts. The next thing she knows, Jusok fires off another freaking explosion right at her, but our heroine just barely manages to block it. She gets blasted back a few yards thinking, what the heck was that? Even if he's got total control of that thing. The firing speed was insane. She's starting to wonder if it's even a magic-type skill. Then he has the nerve to ask, getting the picture now? He goes on, this little toy I'm using? Yeah, it's in a whole different league from the bargain bin powers you plebs use. Our heroine thinks, no way that's a magic skill, there's no cooldown, and wonders if he's rocking a combat enhancement style. The only ability she knows that fits the bill is beetle bombardment, so she screams the name while charging right at him. The extra starts moving in, too, saying, ding ding ding, you got it, too bad knowing won't help you. In the next instant, he throws a punch, but our girl manages to block it, and she follows up with a sweet right hook straight to Jusok's smug face. The jerk starts cussing her out, but she just says, obviously, it makes a huge difference. Your little trick only works if you punch the air to make an explosion, so all I gotta do is stop you from punching. Simple, right? Our protagonist is watching from the sidelines thinking, dang, she's actually handling this pretty well. If she'd mistaken it for a fire spell, she never would have gotten close. I mean, it's super hard to interrupt someone casting a spell. You usually have to wait for an opening. But if the skill is an enhancement type, you've got to switch up the whole game plan. And since this guy can just spam his move with no delay, trying to fight him like a mage would have been a total disaster. The weakness was in the action itself. His skill needs a big, telegraphed movement to work specifically, that punch he throws at nothing. So, if her move got shut down, the other guy would totally have her on the ropes, but our girl came up with a plan, sort of. It wasn't exactly a stroke of genius, so she had to play it cool. A second later, Mr. Background character tried to bop Ayan, but nope, she blocked it like it was nothing. Again, he tried to swing on her again, but our girl shut that down once more, and right after that, she gave his noggin a good old bonk. As she was playing whack-a-mole with his fists, she thought, oh yeah, I got this. Jusok is going down. And with that, she snatched up both of his arms. The universe's PA system chimed in. User is now activating. Flame abilities. Form 2. Immediately, our heroine geared up to launch a kick at this jabroni. And Jusok had the brilliant thought, I should probably block that. Then, kaboom! The whole arena just blew up. Our leading lady got launched like a rag doll, flying a good few yards back. Jusok, clearly salty, griped that she was getting a little too big for her britches, just 'cause you took a few karate classes at the YMCA. Did you seriously think your puny arms could stop me? As he stomped over to Ayan, she was just thinking, huh, never knew you could make things go boom with your kneecap. The more you know. Towering over our girl, Mr. Side character delivered the classic line, you should learn your place, and right on cue, the system announced. User is activating an enhancement category. Ability. As the jerkwad screamed, time to be deleted. He lunged for the final blow, but plot twist a hand shot out and stopped him dead. And whose hand was it? None other than our main character who was like, that's enough, pal. You take one more step, and I'll be the one deleting you. So yeah, the announcer called it. Ayan was out, and it was the MC's turn. The jerk snarked, well, look what the cat dragged in. Finally decided to grace us with your presence. But our boy completely ignored him, and just asked Ayan if she was okay. She, of course, shot back with, it's not over yet. Get back in line, dude. It's not your turn. Meanwhile, our hero's thinking, bless her heart. She's been running on fumes ever since that first explosion. Gotta give her props for the fighting spirit, though. He then told her, they already called the match. It's over. But she opened her mouth to argue again. So our hero just cut her off with, look, stop being so stubborn. A loss is a loss. And hearing that finally seemed to get through her thick skull. A moment later, she trudged out of the arena. Some medics rushed over with a stretcher, but she waved them off like, I'm good, I can walk. A little later, our protagonist caught up to her and said, hey, you did a great job out there. Don't beat yourself up over the loss. She looked totally floored to hear that, and as she walked away, the waterworks started. Meanwhile, Mr. Background was feeling all high and mighty, yelling over to our hero, I was getting worried you were gonna chicken out. But our boy wasn't having it. He just asked, don't you think you went a little overboard in that fight? Against her? Jusok just scoffed. I went easy on her. I even let her walk away. To which our MC basically replied, "Oh, really now? You get one little B rank ability, and suddenly you think you're hot stuff. Did you already forget what happened back at the warehouse? When you tried to pull a fast one on me?" And yup, that memory made Mr. Tough Guy start shaking in his boots. But the MC wasn't done yet. "That ability of yours isn't exactly off the shelf, you know. Where'd you get it?" The kid shot back, "What's it to you?" Our hero was like, "Oh, I don't need to ask. I've got a pretty good idea who's pulling your strings," as he remembered some guy claiming that whole mess was just an accident, and that he was supposedly a victim too. Thinking that the dude from back then looked a heck of a lot like Junman, he wondered, wait, is the professor that guy's son? However, just then, the announcer declared it was time for round 2, and the MC thought, all right, enough thinking, time to do what I gotta do. He sent a little mental memo to Junman, better pay close attention, teach. I don't give out free lessons all the time. All while Junman was probably wondering if his buddy was seriously just going to use his right hand. The background chump just started cackling and said, dude's got some nerve, asking our MC if he's seriously gonna throw down with just one hand. Then, his aura goes Super Saiyan, and Jusok straight up announces he's about to deliver a beatdown. A second later, he starts powering up, firing off some flashy skill to take on our boy. And just like that, he's throwing a whole bunch of Kamehameha punches our hero's way, setting off explosions all over the arena like it's the 4th of July. Even the kids in the cheap seats are feeling the heat from these attacks. The whole place is a barbecue pit as this guy keeps going on his rampage, and my man just will not chill. He's still blasting away like 7 panels later. Han's over here like, dude, this is supposed to be the first fight of the year, and we've already cranked it up to 11. Finally, Mr. Side Character stops his attack and laugh combo. He's all, you really think being a little sporty makes you hot stuff? Newsflash, pal. It's all about the superpowers, and no matter how hard you flex, you're no match for me. But then our hero just sighs and goes, man, kids these days are hopeless. And suddenly Jusiok looks like he just saw a ghost. From inside the smoke cloud, our guy says, youngsters really think just spamming attacks will solve anything, while casually holding a wooden sword. He then asks why this jabroni was just closing his eyes and spraying and praying with his powers. Jusok is like, that makes 0 sense. Are you trying to tell me I didn't land a single hit? Our MC just calls him a complete doofus, pointing out that his little explosions only have a 1-meter blast radius. Meanwhile, the arena is, way bigger. So yeah, he didn't even have to bother dodging. Then, he starts charging right at this background character, and the MC is like, alright, time to take you to school on how to actually fight. Seeing this, the kid gets all cocky again, thinking, oh yeah, this is perfect. In the next moment, he winds up to throw a punch at our main character, but then immediately chickens out for some reason, and the story behind that is just, wow. Our boy managed to smack this extra with nothing but that wooden sword. Jusok is totally bugging out, wondering where his awesome power went. It's like it just didn't turn on. But then he starts shaking in his boots again, because our hero is just giving him this deadpan stare, still only using one of his hands. And the kid's brain short circuits, wondering why in the world there's smoke coming off the protagonist's wooden sword. With a face that screamed, I've made a huge mistake, he stammers out. Did you just parry my explosion with a piece of wood? Jun Woo basically says, don't believe me? Go on, give it another shot. And that's when the guy absolutely loses his marbles. He's fantasizing about crushing our hero and making him bow down. So he starts wildly flailing with more attacks, but a split second later, a look of pure agony spreads across his face. And, big surprise, it's because our boy clocked him again. Over in the stands, Hunsha is also shook, muttering about whether our hero seriously just blocked explosions with a glorified stick. I mean, it's not a bullet, it's a freaking explosion that should be impossible. Right on cue, Han drops some exposition, explaining that the wooden sword he lent the MC has a special little feature. It can slice right through mana. So they're like, wait, are you saying the MC is canceling the skill by cutting the mana times before times it goes boom? And the guy's just like, well, there's no other way to slice it, then asks our second heroine if she's got a better explanation. She's basically wondering if our hero is dicing up invisible mana with a reaction time of 0.01 seconds at the exact moment the skill pops off. And if someone claims that's possible, there are only 2 options. Either they're a total fraud, or they're some old school hunter from 40 years ago, back from the golden age when the legend himself, Jun Woo, was still around. Meanwhile, our extra is on his knees, thinking none of this is computing. He's getting absolutely wrecked by a special admission kid with a wooden sword, while he's rocking a B-rank ability with an unrestricted core, and he still can't even touch him. With his brain practically melting out of his ears, he's just thinking, this can't be real. because his precious student council rep and his whole monster-slaying future were going down the toilet. Dude was officially losing it, thinking, "This can't be happening, I refuse," and decided he was going to take our hero down, no matter what it took. He dramatically shot to his feet, crying about how his life has been a total train wreck ever since our boy showed up. And cue the system alerts. A pop-up basically screamed, "User is activating a cheat code," and then he got ready to throw down, vowing to absolutely flatten our hero. The second he said that, the whole stadium started doing the cha-cha, with bits of ceiling raining down. The announcer was like, "Yo, side character, chill out." Apparently, he didn't have the DLC for that power-up, and everyone else started screaming for security. Jan's just standing there like, what in the world is that move? And realizing if this keeps up, the whole place is going to be a crater. Meanwhile, Che's over there shouting that Jusok has officially lost his marbles. Even though, let's be real, she kinda helped stir this pot. The extra went full-on supervillain as this nasty aura poured out of him, which turned out to be a big ol' red energy blast aimed right at the MC, and the system helpfully announced the attack was named. Wait for it. Nuclear explosion. Real subtle. Our hero just stood there, completely unfazed, as this thing barreled towards him. But then, just at the last second, he pops into a battle stance, ready to return this dude's crazy attack right back to sender. And honestly, the attack kinda lived up to its name, looking like a legit mini-nuke that you could almost touch. And boom! The whole screen flashes white. We get a dramatic shot of our protagonist getting absolutely toasted, followed by another gigantic explosion in the arena. For some baffling reason, the audience was still just sitting there like they were watching a movie, but that's when their luck ran out, because shrapnel from the MC's counterpunch started flying right at their faces. Asterisk. Then times they finally panicked and started scrambling, realizing, hey, maybe we shouldn't be here. But back in the ring, things looked roof. Through all the smoke, one figure was still standing, but we couldn't tell if it was our guy or the wannabe villain. And surprise, it was the side character, looking totally gassed. The dude started to cackle, really tipping over the edge into full-blown crazy town. But psych, our hero was still kicking. He was on one knee in front of Jusok, who immediately started gloating, asking how it felt to get knocked off his high horse. He leaned in close, all dramatic-like, saying he'd never forgive our boy, but hey, consider yourself lucky, cause I don't want to be times that guy, times who uninstalls people from life. So, in his infinite generosity, he was just gonna leave our protagonist permanently busted up. But before he could even lift a finger, bam, he got clocked by someone else. The NPC was like, wait, how'd he get behind me? And before he could finish the thought, he was doing a surprise gymnastics routine, completely upside down. He promptly ate dirt, totally clueless about what just hit him. Our hero, now with a completely different, much scarier look on his face, told him to get up. The MC was all, I'm not gonna say it again, get up. Yeah, I think it's safe to say our boy is officially ticked off, saying that Jusok just crossed a major line. This poor side character was still processing the last 5 seconds, trying to stand up but shaking like a leaf. He was practically leaking sweat under our hero's glare. And when he tried to pull out his nuclear explosion party trick again, our protagonist just decked him one more time, man. And then our boy did something so wild that I'm not even gonna describe it cause YouTube might put me in timeout. Let's just say, in the next frame, he was kissing the floor again, courtesy of our hero. As he struggled to get up times again asterisk, he was wheezing to himself that he couldn't breathe. But just then, our protagonist told him to get back on his feet because, oh yeah, they were times not times done here. Now, with actual tears streaming down his face, the side character was thinking about how terrified he was of getting deleted and knew for a fact that if he stood up, our hero was gonna go for the finisher. So he started scooting backward away from our hero, full-on begging for forgiveness and pleading with the MC not to hit the eliminate button on him. He was all, I messed up. I was wrong. I swear I'll never do it again. I'm super duper sorry. But our main character was absolutely fuming, basically asking the kid if he had even one brain cell to rub together, because that move was seriously dangerous. Like, even in a real deal battle. And thanks to this walking liability, the entire auditorium almost got turned into a crater, and everyone had to book it for the exits. After getting chewed out, the side character starts with the waterworks, crying about how he didn't mean for it to happen, and that he just heard it was a super strong move. Yeah, he didn't know its true power. But guys, our MC was so done, pointing out that the dude who used that same skill 40 years ago gave the exact same sob story. He then asks if Justok has any idea what happened to that guy. Shaking like a leaf, the background, the character whimpers that he doesn't know, and asks what went down. Firing up some wicked ability, our hero declares that a chump like Jusok doesn't deserve to even think about becoming a hunter, But this guy never learns, because in a last-ditch effort, he pulls the oldest trick in the book. He actually asks if our hero knows who his daddy is, warning him that if anything happens, his father would hunt him to the ends of the earth. But our protagonist couldn't have cared less. He just launches an attack right at the kid, and I'm pretty sure things got messy because the whole panel just shatters. I mean, did our hero just send him to the Shadow Realm? I'm not totally sure, because after the attack, a massive cloud of smoke just billows up. A couple of guys are standing there like, what in the world just happened? While another one's like, heck if I know, I can't see a thing through this smog. A second later, they spot the side character laid out on the floor, and an announcer comes on saying the test is officially cancelled, the fight's over, and all students need to clear the auditorium. As the announcement blares again, our protagonist is just walking out of the arena, that terrifying aura of his completely gone, which, thank God, it was giving me the creeps. Then someone asks if the sword he's holding belongs to Chum Hoon. And who's asking? None other than our director, who's giving our hero a look that could curdle milk. Woo Shik pipes up, saying his buddy went way too far against a student. But our main character, not giving a single care, he shoots back that Woo Shik shouldn't be acting like he's still in his prime. And because of that, from now on, he's taking the gloves off and is done trying to keep his identity a secret. Trailing our hero, the director mutters that the good old days are officially over, but the MC just asks if his friend seriously thought he'd just sit on his hands forever. Flash forward a few hours, and we're in the men's restroom. Someone's on their phone, getting a call from Minister Mayunjin, and of course, who picks up? Our favorite shady professor. Now we're jumping back a few years, and our hero is sprinting somewhere, a look of pure panic on his face, and I had no idea what was going on since they hadn't spilled the beans yet. Oh, okay, now I get it. His team's base is literally on fire, people are scattered on the ground, probably taken out, and there's even a kid's toy lying there. Probably belonged to someone who's not with us anymore. Our hero is genuinely terrified, his expression is just awful. He sees Chung's sword on the ground, and after spotting it, he instantly knows it's the blade of the guillotine. And in that exact moment, the king feels pure, unadulterated terror, because when he looks down, he sees something completely unexpected. There's someone on the ground, and if I'm seeing this right, it's a man holding a woman in his arms. After seeing that, our hero just collapses to his knees. The next thing you know, a bunch of people show up, calling him captain. Once he registers them, our guy asks what the heck happened there. One of them explains that a monster broke out of a blue-ranked dungeon, stormed the camp, and unleashed a massive, destructive attack. Our protagonist is livid, yelling that the first rule of business is to clear out any dungeons near the camp first. He demands to know what really went down. Finally, one of the guys raises his hand and admits that the three of them were the ones who screwed up. Apparently, they totally failed to clear the dungeon. Our hero is beyond irritated, basically screaming that it was just a blue-ranked dungeon. I mean, there was absolutely no way to flub that mission. So the dude had clearly dropped the ball since he couldn't even explain what went down. But then one of his buddies does this whole dramatic bow, starts apologizing, and pins it all on Hunter Cha for insisting they go, with way fewer people than they needed for the job. And let me tell you, this was the exact moment our hero's last nerve just snapped. The MC hits him with, "So, how many people knew the plan?" And the guy mumbles, 7. Then the MC asks, "And how many actually went?" The answer? A measly 3. Our boy was not thrilled, to say the least. You could see him physically restraining himself from screaming at them before he asked his next question. He's like, "So, do the 3 of you regularly try to snag loot meant for 7 people?" The guy was quick to say that wasn't how they rolled. He claimed it was a one-time thing, a complete freak accident because some dungeon interference just popped up out of nowhere. But right then, our protagonist was done playing nice. He said he couldn't care less if they were skimming off the top, but there was one thing that was totally unforgivable, and he asks the guy if he has any clue what that is. A second later, he roars that he'll never forgive anyone who wrecks his entire life's work, and the work he poured into that camp. He then yeets the guy to the ground and tells the side character to take a good long look at the disaster. All because of his genius-level recklessness, the whole camp was now a smoldering ruin, and our MC was not about to let that slide. He didn't go through all that hardship just to see this dumpster fire, and he asked if the guy seriously thought the extermination team was risking their necks for kicks. The dude just keeps telling himself it wasn't his fault, shouting that he didn't want this to happen, and that nobody could have predicted the dungeon interference. Then he pulls the victim card, begging the MC for another shot and promising to return every last bit of profit they made. He even offered to foot the bill for rebuilding the camp. But our hero wasn't listening. He just powered up some gnarly ability on a literal guillotine, and then he made it official. The guy was permanently banned from the extermination team for his little screw-up. His spot at the camp and his hunter status were toast. And man, the look on the MC's face was terrifying as he stated that from this day forward, Che could forget about ever even dreaming of being a hunter again. And then, the thing I totally saw coming happened. But I'm not gonna spell it out. You get the picture. Flash forward to now, and our totally shameless professor is ghosting the minister, who's already blown up his phone with 6 missed calls. The guy's cursing out Seok, thinking, how many times did I tell that kid to chill out and not use his personal nuke button? And now the whole thing's gone viral. It was broadcast across the country, and they're definitely gonna start an investigation and dig into every little secret. The absolute worst part was that the bracelet was totally unregistered, which is super illegal, and now they might even uncover that whole mess from 2 years ago. He's totally spiraling, figuring all the blame is gonna land on him since the association pulls all the strings. So, naturally, he punches a mirror. That's it. He doesn't even say sorry to his reflection, just tells himself to get a grip because he has to get the bracelet back. As long as nobody finds out who the supplier was, he figures he's in the clear. And hey, the minister has his own butt to cover, and Yun-Che has zero reason to snitch. So he decides to worry about the fallout later. Right now, job number 1 is retrieving that bracelet. But, in the very next moment, someone asks, "You looking for this?" and casually tosses the gadget on the ground. Of course, it's our hero, looking as unbothered as ever. Jamin practically jumps out of his skin, asking what the MC is doing there and if he's suddenly gone deaf to the all students back to class announcement. But the MC just plays dumb, like, whoa, why are you so worked up? He says he just figured Janmin might be looking for the bracelet and wanted to return it to his teacher. You know, since he just so happened to overhear a few things during the exam. Something about a device that puts a limiter on any dangerous abilities that go past a certain power level. But the power Seok was rockin' was so ridiculously OP that none of the safety locks even saw it coming, and it completely wrecked the entire arena. And he's like, hey, you ever wonder why a power that dangerous didn't have a safety switch? He says the only way that could happen is if it was a core, that the association never even logged. Hearing that, the slimy teacher starts shaking in his boots, realizing a teacher giving a student an unregistered core is a big, big oopsie. And if anyone found out this mess was his fault, he'd be in deep trouble. But Jermaine tries to play it cool, saying our boy is just talking crazy. Then he gets all smug, asking, you got any proof I gave him that power, kid? The MC is like, oh, I remember. You were the greedy clown who messed with the hunter count, got the whole 2nd District field wiped out, and for that, I shut off every last drop of your mana, and I kicked your entire team out of the camp. So, is it just a wild coincidence I'm seeing the exact same shady powers again? You know, the kind that aren't exactly standard issue. When he dropped the name of the dude he just dealt with, the teacher freaked out, asking, who in the world are you? He couldn't believe he knew who his dad was. Honestly, even our hero was a little surprised, having no clue that Junmin was Cha's son, although it wasn't a total shocker, since the apple didn't fall far from the rotten tree with those two. And right after thinking that, bam, he smacks the guy right in the kisser, yelling that because of his garbage actions, one of his students lost an arm, and today, a bunch of kids nearly checked out for good. And even 2 years ago, you were already making epic mistakes, but there's one thing I will never, ever put up with. And that's people trashing what I worked my butt off to build, something I poured my life into. So, I'm gonna ask you a question, and you better answer me right now. Then he asks, was it you who gave Seok the unregistered core? The guy says zip, then tries to bolt on him. He even makes a desperate grab for a bracelet to try and attack him. He actually snags it, and then takes a swing at our hero. Or so it seemed, but psych. He throws the bracelet on the ground and just starts stomping on it like a toddler throwing a fit. He's trying to grind the evidence into dust. Then he shoots this proud smirk at the protagonist, thinking there's no way he can get busted now. He's all, so what are you gonna tell the cops, huh? You got no evidence. You really think they're gonna believe? The word of some high school punk? We adults aren't a joke, kid. And this isn't just about Seok anymore. You just assaulted a teacher. Your school life is officially over, buddy, because nobody is ever going to believe you. But then he starts trembling again when someone new shows up asking, why is it so loud in here? And surprise, surprise, it's our director. He's here to sort things out. Juman immediately starts playing the victim. Mr. President, you're just in time. This student was threatening me. He attacked me. For that, he should be expelled immediately. Wishik just looks at him and goes, you broke the mirror, and you need to lower your voice. Trying to squirm out of it, the guy says, I broke the mirror by accident. So the protagonist looks at the director like, you hearing this nonsense? I didn't do a thing, I'm an innocent man. But Wooshik just deadpans, yeah, no. I'm pretty sure the teacher did it. Then he asks our hero, so, did you find any dirt? The protagonist just tosses a phone into the director's hand, who fumbles it and says, "Hey, Jun Woo, be more careful. I've still got a ton of payments left on this thing." He also grumbled that his boss needs to learn how to use a phone, and while the MC was giving Woo Shik grief, the sleazy teacher just watched the whole thing with his jaw on the floor. As they were leaving, the director asked what the next move was, and the protagonist said, "First, the school has to make a public announcement about what went down." Jimin, still totally confused, asks, "Mr. President, why are you talking so formally to a student?" But Woo Shik just blows him off, and tells someone on the phone to draft an official statement, because this whole mess involved a seriously illegal request. The teacher started totally freaking out, asking the director what in the world he was thinking, because if he pulled this stunt, he wasn't the only one going down. He was all like, "Even Minister Manjun's gonna get dragged into this mess. Can you handle that heat?" But the director was just like, "Listen, I haven't forgotten that little oopsie from 2 years ago for a second. And hey, even if I get canned for this, so be it. If it was just an accident, at least I could sleep at night. But no, we had a repeat performance, and now I can't even look at that guy without wanting to crawl into a hole." Leaving the poor guy completely baffled, Woo Shik basically said, "Dude, you just don't get how the game is played, do you?" And then he's like, "Did I stutter last time? The only dude I'm scared of is Jun Woo from 40 years ago." Then he gives the guy a classic, "Thanks for your service, for all your, hard work over the years." And as he bounced, the guy's screaming, "Mr. President," but Woo Shik didn't give a single heck and just strolled on. Later, Woo Shik was like, "It's gonna be tough to pin this on the minister. They might not even bother looking into it." But our boy, the MC, shot back, "Oh, once this hits the internet, good luck hiding anything. That's why I need you to make this thing go crazy viral. You know a guy in the media, right? Tell him to blast this story everywhere. I want everyone and their grandma to see it." Then he's like, "Hey, while you're at it, can you do me one more solid? It's about Chung's kid, the one who got the boot for digging into that mess 2 years back. The guy's probably itching for some payback, so let's give him a shot." But then, plot twist, he looks over and goes, "Yo, is your arm alright, man? 'Cause that whole guillotine blade penalty is no joke for a guy in your shape, and I know for a fact I whacked that same arm earlier." Then, cue the robot voice. "System penalty activated on user," which is nerd. Speak 4. The magic man now feels exactly what his victim is feeling, thanks to the weapon's wacky ability. Woo Shik, being a good bro, said, "You should probably see a doctor," but the MC just brushed it off like, "Nah, I'm good. Seriously, don't even sweat it." As he took off, he was like, "Just handle that stuff for me, I've got, something to return. So, catch you later." And as he walked away, the director was just watching him with this huge, knowing grin. Meanwhile, across town, Hyun's just chilling on a park bench. Suddenly a voice goes, "There you are." And who is it but our main character, saying he'd been searching all over for Hyun. The kid immediately asks our hero, "Was that on purpose? Did you really fight with your offhand just to prove a point to me?" Our guy just cracks a smile and says, "Let's just say your grandpa wasn't telling tall tales. That's exactly why I wanted to show you. That's it. That's the whole show. Whatever you're feeling right now, what happens next is 100% on you," he said, handing the wooden sword over to Hyun. Hyun took the sword and just stared at it, completely zoned out. Our hero turned to leave, and that was that. The kid looked like he wanted to say something, but, in the end, he just clammed up. He had this look on his face like he just got caught with his hand in the cookie jar, but it wasn't really guilt. He was just having a full-on existential crisis, wondering, could I actually pull off all that crazy stuff with just one arm? And then, out of nowhere, something happens that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. But basically, the dad of our third string G, OAT, was ringing his phone. He's like, "Dad? Why is he calling?" But then the guy on the other end asks if he's okay, saying he heard some drama went down at school. So he's all, "You didn't get hurt, did you?" Hyun plays it cool, "Nah, I'm fine, nothing happened." And his dad's like, "Oh, thank goodness, what a relief. I was stuck at work, so I missed the whole thing. Hey, try to get home a little early tonight, okay?" And of course the kid agrees. But anyway, he says, that video is making the rounds. Who was that kid, the one fighting with just his left hand? And was he really using the exact same sword as you? After getting total radio silence, his dad's like, "Hey, if it's a tough question, you don't have to answer." He could have just nodded along, probably sick of hearing the same old sob story, but nope, the kid suddenly flips a switch and declares he's never giving up. He's totally going to become an official, card-carrying hunter, and nothing, I repeat, nothing, is going to stop him. So, the news was all over that little oopsie at school where Seok accidentally, completely demolished the auditorium. It also mentioned the cops were sniffing around the minister, trying to figure out if he'd ordered some of that off-the-books power-up action. Meanwhile, back at the academy, while our hero and heroine were supposed to be training, someone was busy scrolling through the drama blowing up online. And surprise, surprise, it was our main man, thinking, hey, the internet doesn't hate me, and Dong got his gig back. Win-win. Ayan calls him out, like, Jun Woo, you've been glued to that phone forever. She points out that he's basically the school's newest celebrity, and everyone's talking about him. But he just flips it back on her, saying, aren't you the one getting all the buzz? Apparently, the comment section was blowing up about her. Everyone was hyping her up for actually surviving against Seok in the arena for more than 2 seconds. And just like that, she turns beet red. Jun Woo adds that the internet has officially nicknamed her One Punch Girl. Then, right on cue, someone busts in asking if they're still working out. Of course, it's Hyun, who's already congratulating her on making the council, leaving our girl totally clueless, like, what are you even on about? Even our main character is confused, pointing out she hasn't even been nominated yet, and maybe they should hold off on the party poppers until it's official. But Hyun's just like, hey, you never know. And then, bam, something completely catches our hero off guard. The kid admits he's been practicing with that gnarly guillotine blade every single day, but he's still, kinda terrible at it. And this, he explains, has created a tiny little issue. Our hero's like, alright, I'll level with you, buddy, but you're not gonna like it. He explains that if the kid wants to be a legend like his grandpa, it's gonna be a world of hurt. But the kid just grins, all like, bring it on, I don't care if it's hard. He's all about getting those gains and begs our hero to train him. Ayan immediately warns Hyun, dude, be careful, this guy's a total psycho when he's teaching. Our hero just deadpans, hey, if you don't like it, you can quit any time. But then, out of nowhere, a voice booms, son. This totally throws our hero for a loop. And yep, it's Hyun's dad, who strolls up and asks if they're the ones hanging out with his boy. He says it's awesome to finally meet them. The guy keeps going, gushing about how he knows all about our hero and how epic his last fight was. He mentions seeing our guy use the same sword as his own father, which blew his mind, and asks, you're Jun Woo, right? Our dude confirms. And, flashback, we see 3 dudes groveling, begging our hero not to kick them out of the camp. But our guy is having none of it and just tells his team to give him the boot. But these randos just won't quit with the waterworks. They're still crying for a second chance, as our protagonist coolly walks away without a single look back. Oh, and the base? Yeah, it was a complete wreck. We're talking fire everywhere, buildings crumbled to dust. Then someone shouts for our hero again. Turns out they found a survivor, just a little kid. Our hero thinks to himself, man, this 10-year-old kid really shot up. And now he's got a kid of his own. Wow, this is weird. Fast forward a few hours, some teacher announces that class is dismissed and that tomorrow the Hunger Games for a spot on the council begin. Anyone brave enough to join should drag themselves to the office for a sign-up sheet. This gets a bunch of nobodies chattering, and that's our protagonist's cue to stand up. He declares that he and our leading lady are signing up, but then immediately asks, hey, do we have to do this today? Can't it wait till tomorrow? But nope, our hero insists it has to be today. He's got something he needs to scope out at the college office where he's a student. So, my man and his girl were just posted up outside the door. She's like, are we going in or? But he told her to pump the brakes. Said he was playing detective for a second. And right on cue, some girl we've literally never seen before waltzes out of the office. So, is she a secret final boss or just a background character? My money's on glorified extra, to be honest. And yeah, total extra vibes, cause she immediately starts fangirling, all like, oh my god, you're the guy who totally wrecked USAC. She's gushing about meeting a celebrity in the flesh. Then she side-eyes our girl and goes, so, is this your girlfriend? And right on cue, Ayan turns about 50 shades of red and stammers, whoa, it's totally not like that. We're just classmates, I swear. The girl's like, chill, I'm just messing with you, claiming she already knew our heroine, before launching into a super boring monologue and casually mentioning she's a student from Class B. Our hero was thinking, man, I already can't stand the way this chick talks. She then sticks her hand out to our heroine, drops her name, and asks if they can all be one big happy friend group. But our favorite couple just gives her this blank, are you for real? Stare. She tells them they shouldn't be so on edge, acting like they're going to be seeing each other all the time so they might as well get cozy, which made our protagonist hit her with a deadpan. Why? The girl explained. It's because she also put in an application for the student council, acting like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Besides, she said our couple's skills were way too good for a couple of Class E scrubs, and with Seok getting the boot, it's practically impossible for the 3 of them not to get in. With a sly grin, our hero goes, That's super interesting, especially since Siak never even applied to the council and got expelled, yet you're saying your spot is already locked in. So, what you're telling me is, the whole thing is rigged. He says this with a look that could curdle milk. He flat out asks if she's tied to the association, but the girl goes silent and starts shaking like a leaf. Our protagonist's inner monologue was just, nailed it, and there was just one last thing to double check. The whole reason he was just lurking by the door was because he knew everyone trying to join the council would have to walk through that office, meaning he could fish for someone from the association. His little prediction paid off big time, since he'd just caught one. But honestly, her little panic attack lasted all of 2 seconds before she flashed a smile, saying that nobody gets to decide if the school bigwigs find out about the association. Our hero coolly replies that he has his sources. The girl then admits it was no accident that Siak got taken out, and now she finally gets why. To be blunt, she wasn't a fan of his whole style either, and even if he got demoted to Class E, he had no business bringing shame to Class B. As she kept running her mouth, our couple just kept staring at her with the most unimpressed faces imaginable. Trying the handshake thing again, she tells them there's no need to sweat it, and once more, they completely ignore her with those same deadpan expressions. The girl's finally getting annoyed and asks if they're trying to play hard to get, because being friends with Class B students would be a serious upgrade for them. But our main character just goes, "Yeah, I'm not so sure about that." Warren just bursts out laughing, saying he's totally clueless and asking if getting famous made him lose his mind. She then asks if he really thinks all student council members are on the same playing field. Internally, our protagonist had to admit, the girl kinda had a point. He remembered that even his own buddy got treated like absolute garbage by the council members when he first joined up. So he tells her he couldn't care less if she's from Class B or even if she lands a spot on the council, saying he only came here to find her specifically. He wasn't interested in making new pals, and from the very beginning, she had picked a fight with the wrong guy. After hearing that, the girl just looked totally baffled. The protagonist then lays it all out. The reason for that is because he's not the one applying for the council. In reality, Ayan's the one who wants in, and after that bombshell, you could practically see the girl's brain short-circuit as she finally realized she'd been beefing with the wrong person this entire time. A few hours later, on some random news feed, a bunch of suits were gossiping about the whole scandal with the sleazy teacher and the minister. Both of them were under the microscope, and these guys, being part of the same shady club, were starting to sweat. If those two started singing like canaries about the association, they'd all be totally screwed. One lady pointed out that even if the minister keeps his trap shut, they could still get dragged into the mess, and it's not like they clawed their way up this crooked ladder for fun. A guy added that all the associations could go down the drain if this thing blows up, so they weren't about to just grab popcorn and watch it happen. Another dude nodded along, saying the director was mixed up in the third-year association, and they definitely weren't talking about Director Woo Shik. Everyone just assumed that was a given, since this guy was a big shot on the board with serious pull in the hunting world. And yeah, it for sure wasn't Woo Shik, because a new shadow loomed over them, that was way too intimidating to be his. This new fella was a real powerhouse who had built up a ton of these little clubs himself. The lady from before said if this dumpster fire keeps burning, they had to get the vice president into an executive seat, because if things go south, they'd need a whole new game plan. The guy was like, way ahead of you, and admitted that keeping Minister O on the payroll was going to be a real headache. I'm getting a feeling this big cheese they're talking about is Silk's old man. The woman then asked if anyone in the room didn't have a greasy handshake deal with the minister. The guy just shrugged, saying they had some small-time dealings, but nothing to write home about. Another one mumbled they'd kicked around some ideas with the minister, but it was no biggie if they fell through, since he had other schemes cooking. But hey, either way, having a department minister get the boot was just plain embarrassing. Then some other guy piped up, saying that depending on who fills Jusok's shoes, they might be able to sneak someone into the empty spot. And in that instant, they all had the same bright idea, our hero. Somebody groaned, "Seriously? It has to be times him asterisk?" And another shot back, "Why not? Give me one good reason he can't join the club." But the first guy argued it was a terrible idea to let in some nobody with zero connections. The woman from the start, though, was like, "Hold your horses, that's not it at all." Because the more she mulled it over, the whole situation smelled super fishy, especially since the MC totally mopped the floor with Jusok. On the surface, it was a normal win, nothing to lose sleep over, but here's the kicker. With CK disqualified, the kid could have just sat back and waltzed into a council seat. But then, out of nowhere, the president himself makes a huge public statement, and the guy said it was just plain bizarre how much they were blowing this up, since the president had absolutely nothing to gain. Normally, he'd be the first to sweep this kind of scandal under the rug, not air the academy's dirty laundry. Yet he went public and cut ties with the minister, which could only mean one thing. There's some kind of secret deal between the MC and the president, and we're not talking about a simple handshake. That kid might be pulling his strings like a puppet. Staring right at the woman, one of the men asked, "Are you telling me that if Jun Woo gets on the council, the president is just going to roll over and play dead? We've tried to get our hooks in that guy a million times, but he never takes the bait, and now we're all in the same leaky boat. Even if this kid's influence is peanuts compared to the board of directors, he used to be one of the old crew, so he might be a better horse to bet on than Minister O." You could practically see their chests puffing out with that thought. But one of them, a guy named Chang-soo, was eyeing the whole scheme like it was a 3-day-old sandwich. He was thinking, are these guys serious about throwing Minister O under the bus? His whole project was riding on Yeonjun, and without the minister's backing, he was completely sunk. And with the minister's spectacular crash and burn, he was the one left holding the bag. Now that everything had gone to heck, his cushy spot was about to crumble, and he needed a new lifeline, fast. Just then, his phone rang. It was his daughter, and he's wondering why on earth she's calling him now. He tries to play it off like he's super busy, but she drops the bomb that our hero is officially bowing out of the council race. The guy is absolutely floored when he hears that. You know, I'm pretty sure this is the same girl who was chatting with the main character earlier. Yep, it was totally her. And she spills that Ayan is going to apply instead. And she's 100% certain because she double-checked with the teacher just to be sure. The dude's mind was racing, thinking she must be Unche's sister, which would make her the granddaughter of Seok-do, who's basically one of the most powerful guys on the planet right now. I mean, anyone else besides Jun Woo running for council would be a total snooze fest, but if it's Ayan, oh, that changes the entire game. A second later, someone asks if the boss is okay, but the guy just waves it off like, "Nope, nothing to see here, folks." He had to jet because his daughter called with some kind of emergency that required his immediate assistance. Finally, that whole conversation is over. My brain was turning to mush writing all their dialogue. Out in the parking lot, the man is glued to his phone and dials up a mystery person whose identity was a big secret. Well, the secret's out now, since the guy asks if he's speaking to Unche, telling her he has something incredibly important he needs to talk to her about. A few hours later at some restaurant, Unche straight up asks how he got her number, and the guy boasts that his guild is still one of the biggest in the country, and basically has a phone book with every hunter's contact info. He gives a weak apology for calling her out of the blue. The girl's like, "You mentioned you had something important to say, so what is it?" He starts by saying she's probably already heard that the first year, students are trying to get on the council and asks if she knows who's planning to make a run for it. She says she's got a pretty good idea who, even though she can't stand him, and the man's like, "Well, if you think it's the main character, you're dead wrong, because my daughter gave me the inside scoop. The person actually running for the council isn't our hero. The real candidate planning to apply is Ayan," and when Unche hears that, she looks like she's seen a ghost. And when she demands to know where he got this intel, the man says he heard it from his own daughter, adding that ever since his Jisoo got tangled up in this, he couldn't care less about the council, but that's a different story for Unche. She just asks him what he's trying to say. The guy lays it all out, saying that obviously, if her little sister becomes a council member, Unche is going to be stressing out, and it's a safe bet that the whole complicated mess with her family is going to explode because of it. And if that happens, he's positive that Seok-do will not be a happy camper. And of course, that wouldn't be good for her either. He then slides in with an offer to help, under a few conditions, telling her not to worry too much, since his demands aren't impossible or anything that's going to totally ruin her day. And the man asks our second heroine to take his daughter on a highly publicized hunt, and to announce during an interview that Horan is her star pupil. Then the man asks if her expression is because she's baffled by his little request. He explains that his guild is a pretty big deal in Korea, but they're peanuts compared to the Hunter Association. So if on top of being a council member, his daughter was also getting mentored by Unche, well, the girl asks if that's really what he wants for his daughter. Chang-soo says she hit the nail on the head because just like she boosted the association's image, Jian could become the official face of the Acres Guild, and if that happens, he won't have to suck up to the minister or director Seok-do ever again. But then he flat out admits his daughter's skills are a joke and that she only scraped by to Class B because he pulled some major strings. Unche asks if it wouldn't just be easier to hire her a proper teacher, but the guy says there's no point, because he doesn't need her to have any real talent, since from the get-go, his daughter had zero knack for being a hunter, and as her dad, he's known that for a long time. That's why he needs to cut corners, and the girl asks if his brilliant plan is to just turn his daughter into a corporate mascot, and he says, "You got it, that's exactly the plan." He tells her his help should be more than enough to seal the deal and asks her what she thinks about it. So she's like, spill the tea on this plan you mentioned. And he's all, relax. I'm not gonna go full-on psycho like Director Sick do. But the second those words left his mouth, you could see the instant regret. And he's like, ugh, probably shouldn't have brought him up, and quickly adds that she doesn't need to stress because he's just sending his crew to give her a little scare. But Che's like, yeah, that's not gonna work on my sister, try again. So he asks, all right, Miss Big Brain, you got a better idea? And she goes straight to villain mode, saying, do whatever it takes to stop her, even if you gotta get rough. Then, before making her dramatic exit, she pulls a one more thing and asks if he's been blabbing about this to the other parents in their little club. Ching Su, however, looks totally baffled by this, pulls his classic confused face, and is like, wait, who exactly benefits from any of this? Asterisk, cue dramatic flashback, whoosh times. A few years ago, we're at a funeral with 2 photos on display. 2 people are kneeling, and one of them is our main girl, just bawling her eyes out. Some guy wanders up from behind and mutters, geez, the coffin's closed, and they're still carrying on like this. A woman glares at him with a look that could kill, storms over, and basically yells, how do you have the nerve to show your face here after everything you did? She was totally laying into him, convinced in her mind that this dude was single-handedly responsible for her daughter getting kicked out of whatever she was in. But honestly, it probably wasn't just in her head, because she then asks him, did you really think no one would find out? That this was all your fault? His expression, however, is pure stone as he says, hey, I'm sad about losing my son, too. He goes on, it wasn't enough they took my son, they stole his life, too. Shouldn't I be the one who's furious right now? Hearing that just short-circuited the poor woman's brain. She's confused, still crying, and I think she just gives up because, get this, her name starts trembling. Yep, that's her cue to just tell the guy to scram. He then casually mentions he dropped some sorry for what happened money into her account, and in the next beat, he looks over his shoulder and sees our heroine staring him down, tears all over her face. The guy just calls Min Che and says, yeah, we should probably bounce. And Min Che, who apparently has had a heart of ice since birth, just stood there with zero expression on her face, turned around, and walked off without a care in the world. And folks, that is the exact moment I'm officially revoking her second heroine title. Welcome to the villain squad, girl. As he's leaving, the woman just keeps chanting after him, you're gonna get what's coming to you, while he just walks away, not even bothering to look back. Asterisk record scratch times, back to the present. Our girl jolts awake from that nightmare that was probably more of a memory. She thinks to herself, man, this has been on repeat for days. She's been having this flashback dream constantly, and as she looks to her side, she sees a family picture from a long, long time ago. And that's our cliffhanger for today. If you had a good time, do me a solid and hit like and subscribe. Until the next episode, see ya.